4, 3, 2, 1. Yes, and we're live. You know, always wonder when I see a dude with an Android. I'm like, oh, you're on that team. Like people get so into teams, right? You get so into like groups that you belong to. Like, oh, he's an Android guy.
Yeah, what does that mean about him? Oh, an Android guy.
Maybe he uses a Windows phone. Maybe he's a contrarian.
Yeah, I'm trying to be outside the box.
Yeah, he's got a Henry Rollins for president shirt
on.
What
I can't pin this guy
mean?
down. What's he trying to do?
Is Henry Rollins really running for president? Like, what the fuck?
I don't even know if Henry Rollins gets a part of this merchandise.
Most likely not.
Yeah. I feel a little bit bad about that, but
yeah, I don't think he gives a shit.
No, I don't think he gives a shit. But I did buy it sort of excitedly, and then had a moment of like, wait a minute. So yeah.
Yeah, I don't even think he probably knows.
No, I would imagine maybe he'll find out now. But yeah.
How much have you paid attention to that guy?
I'm a big fan of Henry Rollins. Like Henry Rollins is one of the, I've said this before, one of the his music gave me the courage to start doing stand up.
Really?
Absolutely.
Wow.
I was all in. I used to go to his spoken word shows. I'm all in on Henry Rollins.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you hear his podcast with Ari Shaffir?
No, I haven't heard that. No.
Dude, you got to listen to it.
Okay. Yeah.
He and Ari met at Edinburgh at the Fringe Festival.
Yeah.
And they were talking about travel. Henry just picks a spot on the map.
Yeah.
He just he goes, okay, Myanmar.
Yep.
Let's do this. And he has his travel agent organize it. He doesn't go with anybody. He goes by himself.
Yeah.
Brings a laptop and a camera and some clothes.
When I actually met him, I've met him a couple times, but when I really met him, finally, he came to my book tour in L.A. with his assistant Heidi. And he was going on a trip the next day.
Don't say that. You can't say assistant. She gets pissed. She's his manager.
His manager. Okay.
She got pissed when she was here. She's
Sorry,
like, someone
Heidi.
called me the assistant. I'm like, whoa, I wasn't that guy.
I mean, as a person who has an assistant, it's not really a good word. It makes it sound like you're saying, like, you know, it doesn't sound what the person does is they keep your shit organized from
She's
stem to
his
stern.
manager.
Yeah. So
right,
his manager, Heidi, was there, and he was leaving the next day, and he didn't know where he was going. She told him, you need to get out of town. I'm tired of you. And she said she booked him a trip, and he had no idea where. He was like, yeah, I don't know where I'm going.
He does it all the time.
Yeah.
And he just writes. He goes there and he writes.
I mean, he's living the life that, as an artist, I would like to live if I wasn't married with 2 kids. So I've always lived, even before I was married with 2 kids, like, I can't live that life. But yeah.
Yeah, I can't do that either. But he does it. Well, Ari Shaffir said, all right, motherfucker, you think that's strong? I'm going to go for 4 months. So Ari went for 4 months all throughout Asia. He brought no phone, no laptop, no nothing. Completely lost contact with everybody. Didn't talk to anybody he knew. No agent, no manager. Told them all, I'm gone for like 3 months. And he wound up being 4.
Was he lost for the last month? I can't
just
get back.
Decided not to come back yet. He just did whatever he has his Comedy Central show, and then he just decided, look, I'm going to take some time off, and I'm just going to go.
I mean, yeah, that sounds great.
It does, right?
It sounds amazing. But you know, there's a lot of negotiating I'd have to do to get away for a weekend. You know, I got to plan out like to watch Mayweather and McGregor. I had to tell my wife weeks in advance. That night,
I
want to watch
3 hours. You can't talk to me.
Yeah, it's like I was like, you can watch it with me, which he did, but I can't be responsible for putting the kids to bed. I had to like spread that out, make sure, and then remind and like put it do not book and all those things. For 3 hours.
Getting time away when you have responsibilities. It's like the more things get complicated around you, like it's like Biggie, more money, more problems.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's
until
real.
you get a lot of money, then it's a lot less problems.
I don't know about that, man. I think you still have tons of problems.
But you could. I believe at that point you can sort of create your own problems if you want to have tons of problems. But there are people who have a lot of money. Zach De La Rocha is somebody else I'm a big fan of. Rage Against the Machine.
Right.
That dude like made his Rage Against the Machine money and is just pieced out. Like, you know,
he's a different cat.
That's what I mean. But he's sort of like, I mean, I'm not saying he doesn't have problems, but Tom Morello probably has more problems because he's trying to like, I'm starting a band with Chuck D and and the guy from Cypress Hill, and I'm also releasing a solo, and I'm also on tour with the E Street Band. Like, that's a lot of problems. Whereas Zach's like, every now and again I'll go out with Rage Against the Machine and pick up that big check. Other than that, I'm going back to L.A. I mean, you know, so for me, there's a level of money you can get where you can sort of just turn the volume way. The guy from Calvin and Hobbes is another dude. Like, you know, the comic strip Calvin and Hobbes was the biggest comic strip in the, like, at that time. People loved it, people worshipped it, and at some point after 10 years, like, I'm done, and hasn't been seen since.
That's a good move if you could pull it off.
That's my goal.
Yeah, that's your goal.
My goal is to get to that place of like, there's some, I don't know what the number is, but I feel like there's some number where you go, okay, that's the number where I can put it in the thing and in the index things, and they sits there, and it just, and I'll be gone.
Stockpile and then disconnect.
Good luck, everybody.
Yeah,
you know? And maybe still, like, the thing is, every now and again you sort of pop up to go, hey everybody, but I don't have the need for the attention part of it. It's like, you know, I like the work I do, and I only want to do the work I like to do, but I don't have any need for the star part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, that becomes a real problem. You're way better off with the resources, but no star.
Yeah.
Where you can just go to the mall and nobody fucks with you.
It's like the guy next to Oprah who nobody knows their name.
That's Oprah's husband.
Yeah. Well, there's also another guy, some white guy who's like just the guy who like, yeah, maybe he's the assistant or the manager. I don't know what the name is, but yeah, there's just these people who are like, hey, you go do the thing, I'll be here.
Yeah, well, that's a good move if you're like, if it's Oprah, because Oprah is such a huge figure that nobody's paying attention to you. They're so focused on her. If you're 2 steps behind, you're good. You're anonymous. You just slide around.
Yeah, no, it's real. I'm for a project I worked on, I actually met Oprah for this thing, and there's a whole team of people who are like, it's like 40-year-old white women who feel like they're in like the Israeli army, like just like they just feel like we will take you down if we need to. Yeah.
Whoa.
And then Oprah floats through the room like this happy beam of light, and they're like the ones who are like, no, we'll take care of it if it's a problem.
You got to be intense if you're around a person like that. You imagine how many people are trying to grab at Oprah. I mean, I'm sure you get crazy like requests and bullshit all day. Imagine what it is to be Oprah.
I can't. Yeah. See, and that's when I see somebody. If I got to Oprah's level, and she's like, I mean, she's doing great work. She's the own. There's like, she's helping bring other people up. She's starting. I would just, if I had done that show, I'd be like, good luck, everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't. You know, I don't have that level of like trying to be in the thing.
She's got so much power. She kept Dr. Oz on TV after they brought him into Congress because he was lying about miracle weight loss cures.
Yeah. Dr. Phil still has a show that she's making money off of.
Yeah, but Dr. Phil never had like a scandal like that.
No, but I just feel like he's quietly like, you know, it's like, it's not like he was a big deal at one point. Like now he's like, he's still like, you turn it on and go, oh, he's still on. Yeah, and he's sending her a check. You know,
he's still raking it in.
Yeah.
If you're like a housewife and you're sitting at home and you know you want to find out what's wrong with your teenage kid.
Yeah.
You know, you go to
Oprah got sued by meat. You know what I mean? Like when she was on her show and she said, I'm not going to eat meat anymore because of red meat, and it was a whole thing. Like
they sued her.
There was some sort of like, it was a court case. Yeah, somebody's going to have to Google this.
Did she say something about
she
a particular
said on her show,
company?
she basically, I must have been about a particular company, but she said something about not eating red meat anymore. This was back in the 90s. And then I think that's how she met Dr. Phil, because he was like a jury consultant. I know too much about Oprah. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Oprah Winfrey versus the Beef People.
Yeah, 98.
President George Bush. Wow, I do not like broccoli. I have not liked it since.
This is
all different things that people have said.
Yeah, this is an audio story that you should listen to, but they just
interesting. Interesting.
Yeah.
So she got sued about who the fuck sued her?
Some meat corporation in Texas, because she actually had to move her show to Texas.
Oh, that's right.
Because she was like testifying.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
What did she say? I wonder what it was that she said.
It was something on the show about like, I don't think I'll eat meat anymore or something. But,
how come you can't say that?
I'm not quoting her directly, but it was something about it was the mad cow, blah blah blah.
Oh, was that it? Veggie libel laws. Oh, is that like some weird shit they only have in Texas?
Probably.
That's probably why they brought her to Texas. Oh,
yeah, she had to move her whole show to Texas.
Talk shit about beef.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, have you watched? I posted a YouTube video on Twitter earlier today that shows the contrast between what Houston used to look like versus what it looks like now. Holy shit. It's still raining there today.
It's still raining there. That's the thing people don't understand. My family's from Alabama, so I know how hurricanes work. The hurricane hits, that's bad because it knocks things down and knocks buildings over. But then the water rises. So that's when it gets, most of the damage is done from the flood that happens after the hurricane.
Yeah, flood and then mold and then fungus. Like a lot of times you have to destroy houses just because they get ate up with black mold. Like look at the beginning. If you go bring it to the beginning, Jamie, and it'll show what Houston used to look like. Like look at this. You can see the river, and now look at this, and then it keeps going. This is fucking insane. It's insane.
And just remember, Houston is the city that many Hurricane Katrina survivors from New Orleans went to.
Yeah.
So and some of them couldn't go back because New Orleans never got rebuilt in a lot of ways. And so there's people in Houston right now who moved there because of Hurricane Katrina, and this happens.
Well, I remember I went to Houston like 6 months after Hurricane Katrina, and there was a ton of like people that had to move, that were stuck there, that were like piled up together in houses, like many families in small houses.
Yeah. Did you hear the Joel Osteen thing?
Yeah, that fucking fraud. How dare you, Joel?
He lives in a basketball arena. Like he doesn't live in there, but his church is the old Houston Rockets basketball arena.
Yeah, and it's elevated.
Yeah, and it's got 16,000 room for like 16 to 18,000 people in there.
And he won't bring people in.
Now he has. He got internet shame. That's all I remember. Sometimes internet shaming is okay.
Yeah, sometimes it works. So are these the people that are in there now?
No,
or
that's just to show you how big it is. That's
that's
he
big.
bought the place where the Houston Rockets used to. I mean, the church is in a basketball arena, and it's all about the prosperity gospel. But he put up a link to donate money for the flood that went to him. It wasn't the Red Cross.
No.
He was like, after he got internet shame the first time, he put up a link, donate money for the flood relief here, and it was just a link on his website. It was just to donate to his church.
Oh, he's so sketchy.
Yeah,
they're all so sketchy, man.
Yeah.
When you're making billions of, I don't know how much he's making, but you're making that much money for the Lord,
and
how
also
much
tax free. That's the other thing.
That's right, because he's a church.
Yeah.
Oh, that's horrific.
Yeah, so he's making twice the money that people of that level are making.
Come on, that's so scary.
Yeah.
Well, that's like when you found out that Scientology doesn't have to pay taxes. You're like, wait, what?
Well, it's all. I mean, it's all bad. Like you should. If they're not paying taxes doesn't make any sense.
No, it's completely sketchy. There it is. That is his page.
Yeah, that's
on his website.
Yeah. So help Houston give now to him.
Yeah, and I'm gonna take a little piece.
Yeah, well, I got an overhead. I can't just.
Bro, I got website pills. I got a dude that handles this. I got to pay him.
I got a manager and an assistant.
Electricity, internet connection, server fees.
I had to get this page built. I'd have somebody do this page.
Whew,
to me, that was so just so tone deaf to send out thoughts and prayers. Dude, you got money.
You got a fuckload of money, and it all comes from preaching the word.
So he first sent out that link, and then people said no, and then he said and now the doors are open, and now they're taking pay. Yeah,
Lakewood's doors are open. We are receiving anyone who needs shelter.
And let's be clear, there was apparently somebody tweeted out that there was all the mosques in Houston had opened their doors already, and we're talking America.
Oh, those guys, just too much money involved. When you say, does Joel Osteen, he must drive some crazy car too, right?
Yeah, I'm sure he has many crazy
Find
cars.
out what Joel Osteen drives. I want to know what he drives. Because I guarantee you, it's not even a Cadillac, right? It's probably like some ridiculous Bentley or something stupid with like a golden cross on the hood.
Well, that's the prosperity gospel. If the preacher's rich, then we're all rich. Is
that what he's preaching? It's
called the prosperity gospel, and it's not just him. There's several Southern evangelical preachers. It's called the prosperity ministry, where you preach that if I do well, then you're doing well through me.
Ooh,
yeah, and then you'll eventually you'll do well.
Yeah,
eventually it'll come to you. But it's about why would you want the preacher to look bad? Because the preacher is the representative of God. Yeah.
I saw one where this guy was talking about people that have no money. That if you have no money, if you donate whatever you can, even if you have no money, the Lord will pay you back tenfold.
Yeah, that's exactly the thing. That's exactly
so
the prosperity
ruthless.
ministry. Yeah, it's totally ruthless, and those, of course, those people end up falling for their scandal. I mean, it's
of
the same.
course.
Yeah, it's the PTI or the Tammy Faye Baker and
Jim Baker. Yeah, it's just so ruthless to go after people.
Creflo Dollar.
Creflo Dollar's awesome. He's got like hot dogs in the back of his neck. Like the back of his neck is like these big, thick rolls. My favorite is Robert Tilden, the guy who talks in tongues. You see that guy?
Yeah,
he literally said this once. He goes, "Every time you write a check to me, Satan gets a black eye."
Yeah, he does.
Did you find a car for Joel Osteen? He must have some.
I found a
bomber vehicles.
It's not. I'm trying to find a better official, but these Ferraris are coming up.
Oh, there you go.
It's not officially his. It doesn't he's not in it.
But wait, what about that one? The one that's in front. Yeah, there you go.
I don't know if
that's his. Oh, he lives in River Oaks in Houston.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's his house.
Well, go to that car down on the left. The where he's.
I don't know if that's really him or not. It's too small and it doesn't.
Oh yeah.
That doesn't look like him.
Yeah. I was trying harder. I'll try to find something.
Don't worry about it. Forget it.
we have to crack the mystery.
Nitpicky.
Yeah. No, we know he's doing
Osteen.
fine. If he doesn't own a car, he's still doing fine.
Yeah, he's managed to rake up ungodly sums of money and do so without too much scandal.
No, but the money should be the scandal.
Yes.
You know, like I think that's the fact that, you know, and it's because, you know, it's the whole God thing is caught up in our government. So there's people in our government who feel like, yeah, he's doing that. This helps me out. You know, I can't be mad at him because I'm trying to be like him.
All that happened during the Reagan administration. That's when they first started bringing in those right-wing evangelical people and making them a part of the Republican Party and a part of the campaigns. Before
and those
that,
people all claim to have like people who follow them. So you want them to support you, and so
and they will,
they
will like loyally. It's a very creepy situation because it's if you can tap into that market. I mean, they even
I love that. If you can tap into that market.
That's what it is.
No, it is a market. It is a market.
It really clearly is. I mean, it's nothing more than that. Because if they had real integrity, they would leave it out.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't go after those people and try to use those people to win. Oh, no, these people are doing God's work. Let's just help them and prop them up and leave them alone. No.
Yeah.
They're a pawn. They're a pawn in this whole little silly game.
Yeah.
This game that's got ridiculous. Like, where are we right now? Like, what? Now that you have your show, your CNN show. I mean, you're on CNN, so you're like,
I'm on CNN.
Do you get?
I'm on the fake news.
Yeah. Do you get that? Do you get people claiming that you're a part of fake news?
Yeah, I mean, yes, but not in any. I mean, just like I'm caught up in the storm. Like, you know, it's not like it doesn't always come to me. But somebody was like, I did something and someone was like, another CNN fake news journalist, and I was like, hold on, I'm not a journalist. I'll take the fake news part, but I'm not actually a journalist.
Stand-up comedian, stupid.
Yeah. So I mean, I get caught up in it, but I think, yeah, I mean, but it's not. I don't. It's not coming to me in the way it's coming to other people. But I do. I mean, the bigger thing for me is that when I took the job at CNN, is that a lot of, because I live in the Bay Area, so a lot. I was like, what are my friends going to think? You know, CNN is not, as much as the right wants to say they're the liberal news media. To my friends, they're not the liberal news media, you know? So
what is it to your friends?
Very middle of the road, probably leaning to the right. Yeah.
CNN leans to the right?
Yeah.
Who the fuck are you hanging out with?
I live in the Bay Area, man. I was out there on Sunday in the rally.
Did you have a mask on?
No.
You hitting people with bike locks?
What's the point of that? I went out there with my face. Look at this. Look at this celebrity star who showed up at the rally. Yeah. So, because I know the people who started Black Lives Matter. I know the people who, so they don't look at CNN and go, this is the liberal news media, you know?
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
It's all perspective, right?
Yeah, and I'm not. There are lots of perspectives at CNN, and CNN doesn't tell me to make it. They don't tell me to do anything other than what I'm doing. I want to be clear about that. But I'm saying the perception from people, I think it's funny. Like, some people see it as the liberal news media, and then I have friends who see it as maybe the center, but also or leaning to the left or leaning to the right. And I'm just like, well, you know, I'm in there, and I'm not doing anything different because I'm there.
Well, you have a different perspective also because you have essentially an entertainment show.
Yes.
Same as Anthony Bourdain, right? Essentially an entertainment show.
The Anthony Bourdain show made my show possible. I wouldn't be there without Anthony Bourdain.
Well, really, Jeff Zucker. I mean, Jeff Zucker is a brilliant guy, and I was working under him when I was doing Fear Factor.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I got to meet him. He's a very, very smart guy. And that was a brilliant move to have things other than these shows that just continually show over and over again the collusion with Russia, with Russia,
or right
the
now
new
the
Russia tapes,
or like now it's just like Houston over and over again.
Yes,
like, you know,
exactly.
Look at this rain over and over again.
Yeah. And anytime your show, that's one thing though, being on a news network. Anytime some shit goes down, they will bump your show. Like if I record your show, then I'll go to it like, oh, what's this Russia shit?
People think we've been bumped more than we have. Sunday nights is the best night to be on the news because news things don't happen. But we've been bumped for the Orlando shooter, which our episode was in Florida that week. I was like, yeah, let's take us off the air. Like, that's not I don't want to be looking like, look at how fun it is in Florida. Like, we did a spring break episode. It's like, that's not.
Oh, no.
And then we got bumped. The last episode of the season got bumped. I can't remember probably Russia. I don't remember what it was for, but so we've been bumped twice. But the people who really hit it, like the History of Comedy was on CNN on Thursdays. Don't be on Thursdays.
Thursday's bad?
Because Thursdays the world is happening. Trump is tweeting. You know, like things are going on, and people are more likely to pay attention to breaking news on a Thursday than a Sunday. Like, it doesn't have to be. You know, people are still keyed into what's happening today. Whereas on Sunday, we're all sort of like, take a break.
I think a lot of people thought that when Trump got into office, he would stop with all the insult tweets and stop with all the stuff that made him a popular person.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it went from being like something that like, look at this guy, he doesn't give a fuck. Look at him. He's running for president, man. He's going to win.
Yeah.
I think he's our guy.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they're like, hey, you're still doing that?
Yeah, you're still. I mean, even right now, amidst all of his like sort of somewhat, presidential style tweets about Houston, there are tweets about his enemies. You know, he can't even like take that. Let me just not enemy tweet right now. You know, he's still in the middle of like talking about these things. Meanwhile, Obama just sent out a tweet like, "Hey, everybody, support the Red Cross."
Yeah.
You know, it's like that. Where's that tweet? You know, so
right. Well, he doesn't. You know, Obama obviously doesn't have to do anything anymore.
No.
Everything he does could be completely from his own thoughts, and he doesn't have an agenda.
Yeah, but I think that, I mean, again, I know people who are like, maybe it's time to have some thoughts and an agenda. Like maybe it's because as we're sort of in a,
Oh, for Obama, you mean?
Yeah. Like I read an article that said, I didn't read the article, but the headline said, so I'm going to be honest about this, Obama, the thought is that he's going to come back in the fall to help rebuild the Democratic Party. And I feel like, we don't know if we're going to be here in the fall. You know, why are you waiting? Like, why aren't you here? Why put that off? Like, things are happening now. You know. Yeah. Now I get he's playing like that Star Trek chess where it's 3 levels and things are happening. And he's seeing things I can't see, and he sees the Matrix. But I feel like, I just feel like I'd like to see you before the fall, even though the fall is only like 2 weeks away.
Well, what could he do other than
He got a lot of money. Or he certainly has access to a lot of money,
for sure.
Which means you have a lot of and he still has a lot of influence. You know, so. I don't know what he could do, but he could do. He could do something. You know, I think that. You know, even if he just responded to every Donald Trump tweet, I'd be like, "Yay!"
Right.
Like I think he's amassing power for something, and maybe he's got some plan that I'll be like, "Oh my God," you know. But I just feel like he certainly is. You know, he's still one of the most influential people on the planet.
Yeah, when you talk about like that 3-level chess thing or multi-level chess thing, you got to wonder like at what point in time does some sort of a candidate from the Democratic Party arrive? Like where are they and who are they and are they thinking? I mean, is it Gavin Newsom? Is it who is it?
I mean, I hope it's. I mean, I guess I will say this. I think my party affiliation is Democrat, but I'm not somebody who's like repping the Democratic Party. People sometimes think I am just because I'm against Donald Trump. But so I would say this, that I hope that person is somebody whose name we don't even know yet, because I feel like the thing that happened with Obama is he came out of nowhere, and I think if you go to the usual suspects. With the way the country's current set up, you're doomed. If the Electoral College is still in place in 4 years, then we're doomed if we go with the usual suspects.
Well, Obama might have come out of nowhere, but a lot of people were looking at him like, this guy, here you got this guy, Harvard-educated, very articulate, good-looking, smooth, calm.
Clean, as Joe Biden said.
He was calm.
Yeah.
Like, that was the most... when you look at the way Trump has been responding to all these things, how he freaks out when he gets a small crowd in Arizona at a press conference... I mean, the thing about Obama that stands out more than anything was his composure.
Yeah. He felt like the adult in the room.
Yeah.
Whether you agreed with him or not, and I certainly didn't agree with everything he did, he felt like a grown-up who was making thoughtful adult decisions that sometimes I disagreed with, but I knew he had thought them through.
Well, and also, one of the most important things about being a president is the president sort of sets the tone for the rest of the country. Like, he represents the country. Now, when the president represents the country and he's talking shit about people bleeding from plastic surgery and, fake news and yelling about this and then saying things that are just absolutely not true, that turn out to not be true. And it's like, and you have to like look at it and then you vet it out and you go, well, he's fucking lying.
Yeah.
What?
And all the associating with people with known conspiracy theorists and and white supremacists and like to me it's like you're saying you're setting the tone for the country, and all those people feel certainly emboldened by him and empowered by him in a way that like is not healthy for the country.
Well, even if he doesn't support them, that whole wink and a nod to
that's
them,
what I'm saying.
It's very sketchy.
Most of, as we know, most of communication is nonverbal.
Yeah.
So the fact that he doesn't have to, even if it sounds like he's saying the right thing, if it's not landing with the people he's talking about the right way, like if he says, I support the blacks or whatever it is, it's like if it doesn't feel like that to the blacks, then it's not. It doesn't mean anything.
Well, people know when you're saying something from the heart versus when you're saying something for damage control, like Charlottesville. Yeah. Like when he came out after Charlottesville and said that people were behaving badly on all sides. On all sides. Dude, you got a Nazi that ran over a crowd of protesters. He hit the gas and ran over other white people, you dumb fuck. Like, This is so crazy to say on all sides. This is so crazy.
Yeah, and he improvised that part. That was not in the speech. That was his riff
on all sides.
Because I think it had been written for him, and he was like, I can't. I gotta put some magic in here.
Well, I am of the belief that non-violence is always the answer, and that running around with masks on, hitting people with bike locks, showing up with sticks and bats and the shit that people are trying to do, I think although their heart and their mind might be in the right place, when you show up with bulletproof vests on and helmets and sticks, people see that, and that is an act of aggression, and the opposition is going to show up in turn with something similar or worse. It escalates. Well,
I think the problem is that I was in Berkeley, like I said, in the weekend at the No Hate in the Bay rally that was supposed to that whoever said they were going to show up, alt-right people. There are also many names, white supremacists.
Right.
They were going to show up. Like 4,000 people showed up. Somewhere between 3,000 and 4,000 people.
On which side?
Mostly on the side of not the alt-right.
So 4,000 all told.
Yeah. But it was like the side who was like, not in our streets, this is Berkeley, we don't play this shit,
right,
was way bigger than the side from the white supremacy alt-right side. It was not even close.
As it was in Boston recently.
Yeah. So and overwhelmingly there was like 13 arrests, and as many people pointed out, there's more arrests at a Raider game. That's not a lot of arrests. And sometimes you get arrested because they're like, let's just get you the fuck out of here, or this is a safety issue, or
Right.
So it's like 13 arrests. Some people were injured, no deaths, thankfully. But if you look at all the mainstream news reports, it's like it focuses on those people who, the Antifa or the people who were the Black Bloc anarchists, who were there to like fight with people. And
right.
and for I was there. There was old people there. There was young people there. I had a friend who was like, yeah, I got an alert on my phone that said that there was a tear gas, and I was in the rally like, there's tear gas? Like, he's in the middle of the rally. CNN or the San Francisco Chronicle's like, there's tear gas in Berkeley, and he's like, there is? And all that stuff got overplayed, and I was there, my wife was there, and it was a very beautiful day, despite the reason why the day had come together.
Well, there's a real problem in that the media needs something to bleed. They need some tear gas. Yep. They need a riot in order to get clicks. It's just like that New York Times article that I talked about with Conor McGregor's face being completely bloodied and falling. No, you're doing that because you're trying to sell newspapers, not because that's what happened.
And you haven't hired anybody there on staff who actually knows the UFC or knows boxing or knows combat sports. Like, that's, to me, it's like, we need an article about this.
Well, and also having someone with a perspective that would go to that rally and say, look how many people are here that believe in equality, that believe in unity, that believe in peace, that just want to support this idea that the community is filled with way more of those people.
Yeah.
And the people with the bike locks and the face masks, and you're talking about a few scrambled individuals.
These are people who, and here's the thing about those people. They don't show up when it's just a beautiful day at the park.
Right.
Like, they don't, nobody, I live in Berkeley. Nobody's like walking through Berkeley like, oh God, is Antifa about to show up to the farmer's market? Like, those people don't show up unless they feel like the shit is hitting the fan.
Well, what concerns me is that those people, when they're wearing the bike masks or the masks and the fucking vests and the knee pads and all the shit, that's where you get those assholes in Charlotte that showed up with guns. Like those guys that were open carrying in Charlotte with bulletproof vests on, walking on the street, showing trigger discipline with their finger on the outside of the gun. I was like, how the fuck is this allowed?
And many of them dressed in military garb, so they looked like they were part of the military or looked like they were part of law enforcement. So, like that was the real problem too, is people thought some people were confused and thought they were on there, like they were part of law enforcement. Yeah. And I think the thing about Antifa, I would say this too, is that the reason why Antifa even has a room to exist is because people in those communities don't think they can count on the police. Because there were two other protests in Berkeley that it erupted in violence because the police were standing by watching it happen. Right. They didn't go in and break it up, and that has certainly happened in Charlottesville too.
Well, what's been said, and I don't know if this is true, but it's been said that the police were instructed in Berkeley to not engage with the anarchists.
Yeah, I don't know how that works. I know the mayor of Berkeley. And then I found out recently that the mayor of Berkeley isn't actually in charge of the police, which I'm like, then what's the point of being the mayor?
So who's in charge? The chief?
I guess the chief is in charge. I had never heard of that before. My friend Nato Green told me that. Like he talked to the mayor. He's like, I'm not actually in charge of police. And I'm like, then why are we listening to you?
Well, that actually makes sense.
Can we talk to the boss?
Because how the fuck could the mayor have enough time to be paying attention to every single issue that the police have to deal with when he's dealing with every single issue the mayor has to deal with?
But the president is in charge of the military.
Sort of, but it's one of the things that the president has done is sort of given the power to the generals. And that's one of the things that the military really enjoys about Trump.
Yeah.
As opposed to any other presidents, they feel like the handcuffs are off.
Yeah, but I think that at the end of the day, the president can consult with, if he tells the generals go do this thing, they have to.
Right.
So I feel like that's the kind of I mean, I think the president has too much power. The president is, many people have reported, can launch nukes if he wants to.
Right.
Now, somebody would have to like violate his order to not launch the nukes. So I think there's too much power there. But I do think it's weird that the person you elect to lead the city isn't in charge of law enforcement.
Well, as soon as he pardoned Joe Arpaio, that's when everybody went, wait, what?
Like, there's no serious debate. The problem is now we have debate about things that is like, these aren't two equal sides. There's not many sides. There's nobody who seriously knows the law or knows what Joe Arpaio's history, who believes he was not guilty of those things. He bragged about the things, profiling people, and bragged about abusing people. So there's nobody.
Bragged about people dying in his prisons because they had heat stroke.
Yes.
I mean, they couldn't get cold water. These people were out in tents at 120 degrees.
Yeah.
There's an article that somebody wrote. This kid was born in Tijuana, lived in Arizona, and got arrested for drunk driving and spent a year in those camps. Look, he was raised in America. He was essentially an American, even though he was born on the wrong patch of dirt for some people.
Yes.
He's an American. He just got arrested for drunk driving and did a year in this tent. And was talking about how people died around him.
Yeah.
And talking about the food that they ate and how ruthless they can. And, some people have this opinion of like, hey, well, then don't break the law. But that is a goddamn convenient way to look at it. And it's just not very humane and not very.
And not what we're supposed to be in this country. I mean, we're not supposed to be a country that is that punitive with the law. We often are. And also, the one thing we know about America is that the law is not equally applied to everybody. So, a rich white guy drunk drives. He's not going to prison for a year,
Well, Arpaio did throw some rich white guys in jail, unfortunately. But he threw everybody.
Was it in that prison? Was he going to the outside hot prison?
He threw a lot of people in that hot prison. I mean, he's a cunt.
I guess I was talking nationally. But Arpaio,
nationally.
That the law is not applied equally to everyone. That we know that if you have money and privilege, you can get out of situations, but that other people who don't have money and privilege can't get out of.
Well, sure, I know comedians that have been arrested in L.A. for drunk driving. They never did a day in jail.
Yeah.
And this one kid who was born in Tijuana does a year in a tent.
Yeah.
I mean, look, you shouldn't drunk drive.
No, I feel like
there should be some punishment.
Yeah, you should, if you break the law, there should be repercussions. But
especially
what are the
that
repercussions?
One, because you don't have control of your body and you're driving a deadly vehicle and you could crash into a family. Look, there's a lot of real issues with that.
That's why we have the law. We did an episode of United Shades in the first season about San Quentin, about lifers in prison in San Quentin. And I talked to a lot of guys. First of all, none of the guys I talked to said they didn't do it. Everybody I talked to was like, yeah, I did it. I'm guilty of the thing I did. But when you heard what they did a lot of times, you're like, is that life in prison?
What did he get, like what?
There's a guy who was convicted of robbing 2 banks. Now, that's bad. Let's say that's bad.
Definitely bad.
Nobody died. Nobody got hurt. Certainly people were traumatized by the fact he robbed the bank. He didn't even have a gun. He did the thing. Because you can rob a bank by just saying, give me the money, I have a bomb. Whatever.
Right.
But didn't have any weapons, anything like that. Now, that's bad. But he's probably in his 60s now, and I met him, and he's one of the coolest people I met. He's a leader in prison. He's one of the guys who runs the newspaper, and he invited me. He talked to my agent. He's like, you're coming back in September to speak to the guys. He's a total leader, and he's in prison for life, for the rest of his life.
Not Joe Arpaio.
Yeah.
Joe Arpaio is directly responsible for people being dead.
Yes.
Yeah. There's a ton of people that have mysteriously died inside that guy's prisons.
Yeah, and that's the part about me. It's like this is not the same scales of justice we're talking about here.
No.
There's a guy who got a 3rd strike in California, because California 3rd strike law that happened, for firing a gun in the air. That's bad, but that ended up with him getting life in prison. And you're just like, it's bad. It's bad. It's bad. I feel like I have to say that enough. I'm not saying let every inmate out, but I'm saying it's bad, but life in prison?
Well, the idea that you can never reform people, that seems insane. And I guess There's the other perspective is where are the resources going to come from to actually reform someone? How much effort does it take? And individual cases are different, and some people really are just habitual criminals, and there's nothing you can do about it. And if you do release them, and they continue to do a crime, or they hurt somebody that they didn't have to, like, where does the burden lie there?
But I think Norway, I believe, is the country. Jamie might have to look it up. That the longest prison sentence you can get is 20 years. Prisoners live in like 1-bedroom apartments. Like they have TV. They have, and the whole thing is like, and this is San Quentin has this too. There's rehab programs. I talked to inmates who said that, and then after 20 years in Norway, they talk to you and go, "Are you ready to go back outside?" Like they don't let you out automatically, but they sort of check back in with you. And so if you're not like the guy who shot up those people in Norway, he's probably not going to get out again.
Right.
But the whole idea is that small
percentage of prisoners serve more than 14 years. Wow.
Yeah, but the thing is, they're in there like in San Quentin. I talked to inmates who said in most California prisons, the rehab programs are AA and Jesus. Like that's all they have.
And AA is Jesus too.
Exactly. Yeah.
So double down on the Lord.
Yeah, just a pathway to Jesus. But in San Quentin, there's a newspaper. There's restorative justice programs. There's a plate that you can learn how to code. Like there's prisoners who learn how to code right now. So that when you come out, there's a sense of like there's lots of other programs I can't even think of it. But there's yoga in San Quentin because it's the Bay Area. And so there's all these things so that when you come out, you are a more fully formed human being. So that you have job skills, you've done restorative justice programs, you've helped other inmates who came in to do restorative justice programs. So that when you come out, it's not that it's easy to get out to be paroled from prison, but when you come out, you're more prepared for the world, as opposed to guys in other prisons in California who get out who have just been like doing rehab and Jesus and have no way to interact with the world.
Yeah, and just feel like they've just been punished by being isolated and locked in a cage.
And as a lot of those guys say, they go in there for one crime that's not a big deal, and they learn how to be better and better criminals in prison because you have to sort of like California has like levels of prison. I think level 4 is the worst, and like or maybe level 5. But anyway. So everybody sort of starts out at a level 4. So if you like are in prison in California for something, shooting a gun in the air, you're there with murderers,
Yeah.
And then you have to survive that and hopefully graduate to San Quentin. But if you're in there with murderers, you have to survive that. And so a lot of guys become bigger, badder criminals because they're surrounded by bigger, badder criminals.
Just to put on armor, to protect yourself.
Just to get through the day. And so to me, like the whole, I mean, and there's a lot of money that's already in prisons that's not being used well. The prison, private prison system, like private companies are selling, like they have to keep the prisons full because they're running a prison for profit. So it becomes less about like, it's like we need to keep the beds full. It's not about like rehab and rehabilitation. It's about we need to keep the beds full because we are a corporation running for profit.
That's where it gets dark. How the fuck did anybody ever approve that? That is so scary. It's basically they're using humans as like cells in a battery.
Yeah.
Like a giant battery that generates income.
Yeah, exactly. And that the goal is not to turn these guys into better citizens. The goal is to keep these men and women. The goal is to keep the prisons filled.
Well, it's absolutely been proven by prison guard unions they lobby against marijuana legalization.
Yeah.
Marijuana, which is probably the one thing that's going to stop people from committing crimes.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about violent crimes. If there is a drug that's going to stop you from doing a violent crime, that might be it. Or at least maybe like lessen the chances.
Yes.
Calm you the fuck down.
Hey, maybe I should sit down and just chill out for a second before I go do that thing. Yeah.
There's no other reason to lobby against it. You want to keep your job. You want to make sure that you have plenty of jobs for the people in your union.
Yeah. And there's many of those people who are in prison for nonviolent drug offenses like marijuana and other things who are there next to murderers.
Yeah.
And have to figure out how to navigate through that. And if you're not in San Quentin, you're not in a place where you can learn other skills again, guys in San Quentin getting college diplomas, getting like all sorts of certificates and things. But the problem is that nobody then wants to release them from prison.
Right. Take that chance.
Nobody wants to go. No politician goes, I have released more inmates from prison than any politician in the history of this country. No,
all it takes is one Willie Horton, right?
Yeah, which we, and that was like, we're demonizing like one case opposed. Same thing with Berkeley. There's a picture that was on, I think it's in the San Francisco Chronicle of a Antifa. I'm going Antifa Black Bloc areas. I don't know, with a gas bomb and surrounding that person is journalists taking pictures of him So that becomes the face. It's like they're not surrounded by other black people.
Right.
It's like all the journalists are. That's where the picture is.
Yeah.
You know, not like the people who are like I was on a truck with clergy singing like spirituals. Nobody took pictures of that and put it on the news. You know,
I think that anytime you have...
did. I'm sorry, KQED did.
Did they?
Yeah, the local public radio station. Because I'm a celebrity. I was in the back of the truck.
Well, anytime there's like some sort of a gathering, you're always going to have people in that gathering that act out, try to get more attention than they deserve, or that get caught up in the whole group movement. Like there's always this sort of like gigantic mass of people that will cause people to behave, some people, to behave in a way that's uncharacteristic. And I mean, there's just that mob mentality.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
it's a real thing.
That happens at like, you know, rock concerts,
sure,
and hip-hop
baseball
concerts.
games, anything. Yeah. Mob mentality is 100% real. You can feel it in the air when shit's going sideways.
I mean, it happens. I mean, you've been in clubs where it's like, you know, something happens, like a heckler or something, and the whole energy changes, and there's that moment like, what's about to happen? You know, where it feels like, and you also been in that position, I'm sure you have, where you feel like, I have a lot of power in this moment. Like I could, if I
Calm everybody down.
Exactly. Like if I go, fuck you. Like,
Yeah.
you know, if you said get him, people would get him. You know what I mean? If I said get him, they'd be like, I will write my congressman. You're right. We should start a petition. You know, but that's real. That's you know. And I think the thing is that everybody responds differently. The thing that happened, I'll say specifically in Berkeley, was that there's a sense that these people brought violence to Berkeley the last 2 times they came.
Right.
And people respond differently to threats of violence. Some people respond with the nonviolent thing. Some people respond to, I won't go to the park that day. And some people respond with, fuck it, bring it.
But don't you think there's also a real issue in, I mean, you got to find out what is actual hate speech and what is like someone like Ben Shapiro, who I think is just a conservative guy who's very articulate and doesn't promote hate at all, and he's extremely reasonable. But there's a lot of people that equate him, even though he's an Orthodox Jew, a lot of people equate him with being a Nazi, and they try to silence him from speaking. Like, when you do that, I think it becomes a giant issue. And I think you got to let people talk, and if you disagree with people, I mean, as long as they're not out there promoting violence or promoting negativity or promoting some sort of a, you know, anything that it's abhorrent. But if you let someone talk, and then if you have someone that disagrees with them, have a debate.
Well,
have a debate and have everybody like be peaceful and civil with each other. I
mean, I think the problem is that that line of what hate speech is, and I just talked to somebody from the ACLU, my other podcast, about the whole hate speech thing.
What podcast is that?
Politically Reactive. Yeah, it's a podcast I do with my friend Hari Kondabolu. It's a weekly talk about politics. We were going to do it. We started it right before the election. Like, we'll do this political podcast, then Hillary will win, then we'll go about our business.
Ooh.
Not that we were huge Hillary supporters, but that was
figured.
That was the deal we were offered. Do it up until the election, and then it was like, oh, I guess we're doing this for the maybe forever. Yeah, maybe through the end of time. So
if he becomes like Putin.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you know,
that's the real fear.
You know, although then I guess I stay employed. I don't know.
Chris Rock was on stage right after the election. He goes, you know, he's never getting out of there. You know that, right? He's going to be there forever. He scared the shit out of me because I never thought about that.
I mean, you know, Bloomberg stayed in New York an extra term just because he wanted to. You know, New York governors just, New York mayor's just supposed to be 2 terms and out. And he was like, I forget what it was, but it was like, he was like, I think I need to stay another one.
And they let him?
Yeah,
How'd they do that?
I didn't live in New York at the time, so I don't know how it all went down. But
did they change the law?
I think he changed the law. I don't know if he changed it permanently, but yeah. So if there's a precedence for this, is all I'm saying. There's a precedence for some sort of like, the country needs me because it's so divided. Yeah, motherfucker, because you divided it. Like, this is how the game works. So I would say the thing about Ben Shapiro, and I've only seen a little bit of his work, but I know there are people on that side who it's an ideological argument, and ideological arguments sometimes can be filled with hate. So I don't know Ben Shapiro. So that sometimes is like, well, yeah, you're just making an ideological argument, but it ends with me having to move out of America, you know. So that's
I'm not that guy.
Not yet. But I'm saying but some people make these ideological articles. I'm not saying him. But the problem is that now there's a whole movement associated with things that maybe Ben looks to be a part of. So that if he shows up, people don't know that he's not, that he shows up going, I'm not bringing violence, but there may be violence traveling around with him.
It's not him, but there are others like him, or less less reasonable, like alt-right.
Yeah.
Like whatever the fuck alt-right is.
That's the problem. I don't think we know what the fuck it is. Because,
what's Antifa, right?
Yeah.
And what is that? I mean there's
because
people that are on that are violent, and there's people that consider themselves anti-fascist that are extremely peaceful.
Yes.
So and they would say that they're Antifa, the real Antifa. And then what is Black Bloc? What is that? That's
Black
new.
Bloc anarchist. Well, I think it's probably a Bay Area thing.
How long has that been going on?
I think it's been going on a while.
Really?
I don't know. But it's a thing that like whenever we would see, I think now we're calling it Antifa, but like there would be. I mean, this happened. There were some Black Lives Matter protests in Berkeley, and some Black Bloc anarchists. It's described the same way, wearing black, all covered up, and they were like, and these people showed up. So I don't know if they were Antifa. We're like, great, now we can loot. And people stood in front of stores going, no, we're not. We're not doing that. We're not doing that. You know,
well,
this has nothing to do with you getting into the Verizon store.
Right.
This has nothing to do with you ransacking this Radio Shack.
I saw some of the Antifa people trying to stop one of the other Antifa people from beating up a Trump supporter. They had this guy down, and one
that
guy
was a journalist,
him.
Al Letson. That's he's a Bay Area journalist. He has the podcast Reveal.
And he's the guy that tried to stop them?
He's the guy, yeah, black guy. Black guy waded through the white people.
Well, there was white people that I saw doing it too, so it must have been like some sort of a. It must have been
certainly
more than
it
one
happened more than
incident.
certainly there are people who are like there's people who support Antifa because they feel like, well, we need somebody who stands up to this, but there's not people who support people beating people up randomly. So yes, there were Al Letson and other people stepped into like, yeah, we're not. The thing about the Berkeley in the Bay Area is that people don't get. They think it's all one thing, like that it's all some sort of like lefty, like socialist, blah blah blah. And the thing about Berkeley is it's not that. The Bay Area is not that. It's a lot of different people who feel like who are on some version of the left, but they don't all necessarily agree with each other, and they let a lot of shit go. Like it's not like that, you know. So that can be the naked guy who walks through town. Like that doesn't mean we all support people walk around naked, but we're like, oh,
right,
kind of me. But it also means that like during Obama's reign, I lived in San Francisco, there were libertarians set up on corners with big huge pictures of Obama and with Hitler mustaches painted on him. And we're all like, oh, all right. it's like, you know, as long as you don't want to start a fight, do your thing, man. And that's what people don't get who have put this whole lefty sort of whatever libtard thing on Berkeley. It's not one thing. It's not.
Right.
It's where it's a lot of things at the Bay Area. It's where all the freaks sort of end up. We're like, I don't feel in my life that I'm understood, but we don't agree with each other.
Right.
But the thing that we sort of all agree on is that you can. So if the alt-right wanted to show up, you know, conservative people come speak at Berkeley all the time. It's specifically around people who look like they're bringing violence or targeting people. That's the problem. You see Berkeley, one of the professors, I think, of law there is named John Yoo, Y-O-O. He wrote the Bush torture memos. He's a professor at UC Berkeley. Nobody's like, we got it. I guess he's a good professor. You know what I mean?
What is he a professor in?
Law. He's a law professor. And he's been there for a long time. And he wrote the Bush torture memos that said, you know, if you do some waterboarding, this is not a direct quote, but,
right.
But he wrote the memos that said that it sort of outlined how to do enhanced interrogation techniques. He's been there for a long time. Ain't nobody thinking about him. You know,
maybe they are now.
Yeah. Go get him, everybody. No, but I mean,
don't say that.
I'm jokes. I've never met him. I've never socialized with him, but he's there. And also, the dude who was deep in the Clinton White House. I can't think of his name, but yeah, it was also at Berkeley. Like, there's not some sort of lefty version of Berkeley that is one thing. It's a lot of different things. The free speech thing is true. The thing that people are nervous about is violence.
Yeah.
So I think that, you know, Ann Coulter can come speak at Berkeley anytime she wants to. If there's this thing about like, I'm not going to encourage violence.
Here's the issue with Ann Coulter. I think Ann Coulter is an opportunist, and I think that what she does is try to inflame people so that she can sell books and stay relevant.
Yeah, she's actually going after the market, like we were talking about earlier. Yeah. She saw this market out there. It was like, I'm a pretty blonde lady. I could probably sell some
She's
books.
A what?
I think that's how she's been marketed.
She's a what?
At some point, I'm a black guy. I can't see her.
What are you seeing? What kind of glasses you have, dude? Can I try them on real quick?
I feel like early in her career, she was marketed that way. I'm not trying to say.
Wow.
I'm not trying to.
There's a lot of those out there. I don't think she's one of them.
Okay, well, I'll let you be the expert. But
yeah, please do.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that like I'm a blonde lady. Okay.
Yeah, there you go. There's a lot of that.
Yeah, that it's like that. This in this package, this becomes. It's the same way that like as comics, we go, oh, you're the guy who does this. You know. Yeah. So
she's doing it on. I mean, there's people that do that online. That they're saying things that are inflammatory. They're saying things you you don't know, they don't necessarily, if they were being completely objective and reasonable, they wouldn't say that. They're only saying it because they think it's going to get a reaction.
Which is why her and Bill Maher get along together, because they're both doing the same thing.
I can't deal with that. I just don't have enough time. There's not enough time in the world. You should get attention for what you deserve attention for, and if you want attention by being provocative intentionally, unless you're funny, fuck off.
That's comedy. That's the nature of comedy. Yeah.
But if you're not funny, fuck off.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely true. I think she thinks she's funny. But I feel like Berkeley has had conservative speakers speak there throughout the history of Berkeley. It's not about that. It's
right, but the history is different than the current. The current is
ramped up. But the current
recently.
thing is because when Milo was going to show up, there was the fear, and he had seen it happen before, where he was targeting students, either undocumented students. He like naming students during his stage thing who were undocumented or trans, and there was fear that that's promoting violence. That's
undocumented thing is a huge issue.
Yeah, that's
specifically targeting individuals.
That thing is Berkeley's like, we can't stand for that. That's not about free speech. That's about safety. And I feel like that's where does hate speech begin and where does free speech begin? It's a huge murky area that even the law can't tell you where it is.
Right.
And so, but those issues of what is free speech and what isn't free speech, or freedom of expression, and again, the Bay Area, I live right next to Oakland. Black Panthers were in Oakland. California used to be an open carry state until the Black Panthers was like, oh, it is? And they went to like Sacramento when Reagan was there and like openly carrying, and people were like, huh. Maybe this open carry is not such a good idea.
It's not really a debate right now in Charlottesville, though, is it?
Yeah.
They're just letting it slide.
So it's about who's in power and what they want to let you get away with.
Is Charlottesville open carry? I mean, it must be.
Yeah, it's open carry.
There's no way.
It's definitely. I mean, I think they picked Charlottesville for a reason.
Isn't that weird, though?
Because it's like a liberal college, well, a quote-unquote liberal arts college. That doesn't mean it's a liberal college, but a liberal arts college, a blue dot in the middle of this red state that is open carry. So there's reasons they're targeting these places. I think Berkeley, up until recently, felt like a soft target because they'd been there twice and whooped our asses. They were like, all right, we should schedule a third fight, like Mayweather. Want to fight again, McGregor? So
not in the octagon.
No, not yet. On my terms.
Let's make it right.
Yeah, so this third time, it was like, we were like, no.
Well, Charlottesville, to me, was so representative of the times that we're in because all these white guys with citronella candles they got from Home Depot. It's like, what in the fuck? Why don't you guys like carry Whole Foods bags as well and walk around with Crocs on? I mean,
it's also tiki torches are not white inventions, so it's like a whole it's just the whole thing. Like you couldn't even bring your own. You couldn't just bring sticks. You had to bring Polynesian tiki torches.
But the whole torch thing, what the fuck are you doing? Why do you have torches?
Because they're invoking the images of white people carrying torches that have terrorized people of color and black people.
But that's what it is. That's exactly. There's no other reason to carry torches.
The free speech thing is like you're purposely invoking an image because you could have just held your phones up with the lights on if you wanted to.
We were talking about those headlamps you get when you go camping. You walk through the woods. Put those on. Those are way better than those stupid fucking torches.
But they want to look supreme. That doesn't make you look supreme.
It's also what torches represent is fire, and fire is very volatile. Yes. You could use that fire. You could light things on fire. Like we're at step 1. Step 2 is we start lighting shit on fire with this fire.
Yeah.
Like right now we're carrying it around in a controlled manner, but you're showing. It's in a way like a step below open carry. You're walking around with something you can use to light things on fire.
And they know the history of white people carrying torches is the Klan. So they're very purposefully doing the thing. I love the idea that there's probably these Klan members like, dudes, that's why we wore the hoods. Yeah. So we couldn't be
fucking idiots.
We didn't want to be fired. That's why we wore the hoods.
Oh, those guys are getting fired left and right and called out.
And crying. But I think they know the history of that. They know the history of the fact that if we show up carrying torches, it means something different than if we show up wearing headlamps or carrying our phones.
But they couldn't even get those fucking Frankenstein-style torches where they wrap
those burn too quickly.
Those are so not real. They had to replenish those every 15 minutes on those movie sets.
Yeah, as I learned with the Klan, that would burn too quickly.
Yeah, well, that's also the thing with flaming arrows. Like people that think that you could light an arrow and no, they go out.
Yeah,
you shoot a fucking arrow.
Wind and air works and velocity.
200 feet per second. You're shooting it through the air. That thing's gonna go out. It's not going to be able to light that boat on fire. Get the fuck out of here.
There was probably a rehearsal for the torch thing where they actually did have regular torches, and they're like, oh, this isn't.
This is not working, guys.
Ow! Yeah.
Well, Home Depot was probably like, wait, how many fucking torches? What do you guys have, like, the biggest backyard ever?
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing?
Home Depot managers now, like, how many torches do they want? Slow down a second.
Backyard torches. Like, what? Those things with, like, the bamboo stalks that they're using for the bottom or whatever the fuck the stick is. It's just... God, it's so the sign of the times. It's such a poser move.
Yep, it is a poser move, and yet they know that if you're a black person walking through the streets of Charlottesville and you see that coming your way, and you're thinking you're invoked by images of America's past, where that was like that equaled death, because they weren't back then. The torches were for your house. Yeah, the torches were for you. They were not just showing strength, and they know that, and that's why when people go, it's just free speech, it's like, we have to stop acting like that.
You can't say it's just free speech if you're walking around with a torch. It's definitely more than that. You don't have to have a torch. Everyone can see you. It's not so dark out that we can't see you.
Especially in that way. My wife actually the other day was like, "There's a guy walking the street with a blowtorch." And it's only now because we think like, "What's that mean?" But like in the Bay Area,
he was a welder.
Yeah, exactly. She didn't call the cops. She was just like on the phone. There's a guy walking down the street with a torch. But the idea is that didn't alert her, because it was like, it's just some guy walking around with a torch. But it's specifically the context of nighttime, a group of hundreds of white guys carrying torches walking towards people. Is like, that's not free speech. That's not freedom of expression.
And the chants, the chants that they were yelling out, the whole thing was just so fucking bizarre. It's like, how did they organize? Like, where are these guys meeting up to figure this out?
I feel like it's the same thing as like live action role play. It's like they're meeting up online, and then they probably meet for the first time when they get there. And I think it's also just really, it's really indicative of, like you said, the times we live in, that they think they can get away with this, and then get surprised when they get fired. Like, they think that, like, oh, we'll just do that, and then we'll go to Applebee's. Like, it's just like, no, dude, we can see you.
Well, it's indicative of them being fucking stupid, which is why they're doing it in the first place.
Which is why when the president goes on both sides, maybe there were people, and a lot of people said this, maybe there were some white people who were like, yeah, I do feel like that my rights are being a little bit trampled on, and I really want to show up. The minute you hear people chanting, like, oh, whatever the anti-Semitic things they were saying, you got to go home.
Yeah, what were they saying about take it back from the Jews, or stop the Jews from taking over?
And then the president and the president can't come out against that. Well,
he's seeing people open carry with military outfits on, walking with these folks. He's seeing these people walking down the street with torches, and he doesn't have some sort of an articulate response to that, where he's saying, like, look, ladies and gentlemen, this is not being inclusive. This is not like stepping up and saying that what we need to do is like come to some sort of an understanding and be at peace with each other, which is what America should be.
But you started it wrong. Articulate response.
Yeah.
Like, that's not his thing. I mean,
he used to be more articulate, which is really weird. I don't think men should do anything when they're 70. I really don't, because I think they're old. Their dick doesn't work anymore. Their fucking skin's falling off their face. Their back starts to hurt. They're cranky. I just think when you get to be that age, you should just shut the fuck up.
Yeah, you should sit down.
You should go fishing or something. But you
yeah.
definitely shouldn't have the kind of insane high-pressure job that, by the way, nobody should have. No. Nobody should be the one guy that or the one woman who runs the whole country. It's an insane responsibility. I was reading about Obama. Oh, I put a tweet up yesterday about when the Republicans were freaking out because Obama wore a tan suit.
Yeah, remember that? Yeah, they do. There's all this day in Obama scandal, like in the middle of a Trump thing. Yeah,
and you forget. You're like, oh my God, they were trying to find something to get mad at.
There'd be days when he wouldn't wear a jacket, like he would just wear like a button-down shirt and a tie, and people were like, you need to wear. Like Bush's thing was W. Bush always wore a full suit, and Obama's like, I'm still the president. I'm just hot in this room. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, and people would get the things that they nitpicked, and this is the thing that's so stupid. There's many people on the left who had big, huge disagreements with Obama that we weren't able to express effectively because we were too busy defending his birth certificate.
That was a Trump thing.
Yeah, and that was a Trump thing.
He was the head of that shit.
He was the head. He was certainly, he like saw that thing happen and sort of stepped into it. Like, yeah, I like this spot. Yeah.
Well, didn't he hire people to go investigate it? And
Joe Arpaio was a part of this. He sent people to Hawaii. Yeah, Trump said he was sending. There's all these tweets where he's like, I just sent a team to Hawaii. The things they found are, it's big, it's sad, it's amazing. And then here we sit, like nobody ever held him in. Trump never got held into account for anything, and still doesn't really get held into account for anything that he said or done.
What bothered you about Obama when he was in office?
A lot of the stuff he did was business as usual president stuff, like, like using the military and nations and killing innocent civilians that, that didn't need to be caught up in war. You know what I mean? Like drone shit and like, I think we were supposed to get out of Afghanistan. It's just regular president shit that his first, I drank all the Obama Kool-Aid the first time around. Hope and change, a lot of that hope and change was about not being a president as usual. Also, I don't think he really, the thing that Trump does really effectively, the thing that George W. Bush did really effectively, Republicans do a good job of that. They really know how to use the bully pulpit to really push their things through. Not that Trump has really done anything to push things through, but he knows how to be a bully from the pulpit. He hasn't really passed any major legislation. But Obama, because he wanted to be an adult and he really wanted to be a unifier, and I think a lot of that comes literally from the fact that he's half black and half white, that he has existed in more than one world. I felt like there was times where it's like, dude, you are an effective speaker. You could really push through like single payer health care in a way, like at least the debate on it, so we don't settle for Obamacare. I think that he didn't, and I've never talked to the man. I've never met him. I feel like I'm the only black person associated with Hollywood who's never met Obama. But
does that piss you off?
No, I just feel sort of like, oh, like I don't have a picture. My dad has a picture with Obama. I don't have. Like, I just feel like it'd be nice to be able to tell my kids what was the first black president like. I have no fucking idea. That he didn't use the full force of his presence because he was a rock star. And I feel like that could have pushed some things through, or at least got us to debate things that, even Obama when they asked him about gay marriage, he was like, I've evolved on that. He had nothing to do with legalizing marriage equality, but the president saying that made a lot of people go, huh, maybe I'm ready to evolve. You know what I mean? Right. I don't think he used the full force of his bully pulpit in the way that I always said I wanted him to drive the presidency the way that George W. Bush did. Like, there's no rules, there's no law.
Do you feel like when someone gets into office, they realize how complex the inner workings of the federal government really are, and then they just kind of abandon a lot of the ideas that they wanted to push when they got in there? Like, remember when Obama had that Hope and Change website that had all the stuff about whistleblowers, and now whistleblowers are going to be protected under the Obama administration. And then as soon as he got in office, he was worse on whistleblowers than anybody.
Yeah,
and then he removed that section of the Hope and Change website. They deleted it after the whole, the Edward Snowden thing and the Bradley Manning thing, Chelsea Manning thing. They were like, fuck this. You can't do that.
Yeah, I do. I think usually, we're not seeing that with this current president, but I do think that's the thing where they get in there and suddenly people go, because there's a part of this, you are the most powerful individual in the world, but also the train is going this way. Like it's already left the station. So I do think that you're not going to get really an ultimate revolutionary mindset in the president's seat. You just want somebody who's reasonable. You know what I mean? You're not going to get somebody who's, the Alicia Garza from Black Lives Matter is not going to be the president as much as I think she'd be great at it, because it's just not going to end up with somebody who actually has a revolutionary mindset. So I think that, so then if you start out there, then when you put those people in there, then they, I don't know what the pressures of the office are. I'm sure they're amazing, but it automatically leads you to capitulate,
And if you have a revolutionary mindset, you might be able to use that for one aspect of being the leader of the entire free world. But what about all the other shit that guy has to deal with all day long? There's not enough time in the day. No one has enough of an attention.
Well, Trump apparently has enough time to go golfing,
because he's not doing it.
He's not doing the stuff.
How many people aren't even appointed in the Pentagon? There's a shitload of jobs that they haven't even filled yet.
Apparently for Trump, there's extra time in the day, But I do think, and when I want to be clear, because I know people are listening, when I say revolutionary mindset, I mean single-payer health care is a revolutionary mindset. Like every American has the right to health care. Every American has the right to send their kids to good public schools that are well funded. These are things I think that are when I say revolutionary mindset, I don't mean like setting things on fire. I mean like revolutionary ideas that every person in this country deserves. So and I think that's those people aren't going to be in the driver's seat of the White House.
Well, utilizing the resources that we have because of the fact that we pay taxes, a tremendous amount of money goes to the federal government with very little recourse. There's no audit. You don't get like some sort of a sheet that tells you exactly where your tax dollars went.
You don't get to pick. Could you please send this to the schools?
And what would be important? What would be more important to fund? I think we should all have that conversation. And I just think that the way it's structured right now, the amount of power that corporations have, the amount of power that special interest groups have influenced the president, the amount of just the sheer money in politics with lobbyists. And, there's this one community outside of Washington, D.C. It's one of the richest communities in the world, and it's all lobbyists.
Yeah.
These are just people that are using and selling influence.
Yeah, I'm not, people sort of call me a communist, but I think I'm not a communist at all. But I certainly
What
understand
are you think?
I'm a capitalist. I'm trying to make money, man. I also believe I can help spread a better message and help, and use my resources to help people. But I'm in show business,
business, show business.
Exactly. I'm not. I know activists and I know how hard they work, and then I sometimes use my resources to help those people out and donate money. But I'm not like. I'm in show business. I'm trying to, I'm in Kevin Hart's career. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not Kevin Hart, and I have a lot of respect for Kevin Hart. I think he's amazing, but it's like, I have to sort of remind myself and other people, like, I'm not, sometimes people put the word activist next to my name. I'm like, activist is actually a job. I don't have that job. I mean, I do things that are engaged in activism, but my tax form says comedian,
Well, you have interests.
Yeah, I have interests.
And you also have thoughts about how things could be better.
Yeah.
And you use your platform to spread those thoughts.
Yeah, and I also want a bigger house. And I think that like it's okay to do all those things, for my family, not just because I want to like roll around my money. I want a bigger house so I can move my mom out to it. So there are selfish interests in there, but so yeah. I'm not trying. But I do think that this country has the level of resource. Like, there's a website. It's called DonorsChoose.org, and I'm not trying to do a commercial, but it's a website where schools in your area. You go to the website and you put in like your zip code, and you will see the public schools in your area that need things, and it's sad what they need. We need paper.
Right.
We need, we're trying to teach the kids how to learn how to read, and we don't have any books.
So where the fuck did that happen? Like, where did it go wrong?
Yeah.
There's so little money for schools that teachers get paid like $30,000 a year. And they're supposed to survive off of that. And
every teacher, even at private schools, but certainly at public schools, put their paycheck back into the school because they go, the kids need. We're trying to teach, a learning thing, and we don't have the stuff, and they can't afford it. So every public school teacher I've ever known used some of their check to go back into the school. Yeah, I mean, it's just like
is one of the most important things that we have.
And they're not making.
Kids.
They're not making. Like I said, they're making $30,000, and some of them aren't making $30,000 a year. Some of them are like teachers' aides who's just out of college, but they have to. If they don't put money into the classroom, their kids will not have things. And that's even private school teachers do that, but they may not put as much. But yeah, it's every teacher I've ever known has to do that, and we don't think that's a problem. Like, I feel like, why isn't it that? I feel like there'd be some way. Like, why isn't Mark Zuckerberg's public school teacher getting a percentage? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like some sort of there should be some tax on all of us that goes back to our public school teachers if we went to public school, even if we didn't. But I feel like it's weird to me that like we're acting like these people come out of nowhere.
Because Joel Osteen's got all that shit piled up in his basketball stadium.
I do think nobody talks about like that as like hoarding money. That's hoarding.
That's hoarding.
Yeah, that's hoarding. That's
he doesn't have to pay taxes.
Yeah,
if you don't have to pay taxes, you're fucking straight up hoarding.
Yeah, there's no cat skeletons in there, but Annie should do like billionaire hoarding. I feel like that's a thing,
Well, I mean, that is literally what made the guy who created Scientology get involved in it. And that was literally the idea behind L. Ron Hubbard, making a shitload of money, created a religion.
Best way to make money.
Yeah. It's literally his quote.
Yeah, and we were talking about before we got on, but there's all these like, there's like religion is a good way to make money, but then there's all these like motivational speaker type people where it's like, I'm like looking like, where were you before you were this?
Yeah,
exactly. If Oprah's a motivational speaker, motivate me. What did you do?
Right.
But a lot of people, there's some people I'm like, weren't you just a comic before?
Yeah, not even a good one. I know one of those.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like there's all, I did not go in time.
I know a guy was a hack, and now he's a motivational speaker. I'm
and it's just like, and you listen to the things, you're like, that all sounds right, but who are you? I don't, what's your resume that you get to tell this? I mean, all this stuff sounds right. We can all read fortune cookies and go,
actual achievement?
What put you? I mean, if you, for example, were like this weekend in Berkeley, I'm doing the Joe Rogan motivational speaking training seminar, I'd be like, I'm gonna go see what Joe's talking about, because there's clearly a thing you've done, and you have done a lot of, and you could be like, I want to know how this all happened. How do I get my own podcast studio? But there's a lot of people out there who are sort of they can't be a religious leader, because that does require some work. And you got to develop a new take on Jesus, which is hard. But they're doing this thing where it's like they just are motivating people based on the fact that they've read motivational books.
The new take on Jesus is what Bieber's guy's doing, right?
Is that I keep hearing wisps of Bieber. Is that what's happening? Is it Jesus?
Bieber has some Jesus guy who's also influencing athletes. Who is the athletes he's got?
Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving and I don't know. Look it up real quick.
Yeah, but he's some up and coming Jesus dude.
New take on Jesus.
Who apparently just really knows how to sell it. He knows how to tickle those balls of Jesus lovers.
Well, because I think you get to that Bieber level. He's been famous since he was 12, and he's got all the money, and he's probably had all the sex with every different combination of humanity he wanted to have sex with, and then at some
hybrids.
point he's on the next level.
He's moving on to animal human hybrids.
He's got stem cell people working on new
I
humanity.
I want to fuck a mermaid. All right, Biebs, we're on it. Yeah,
and so he's done all the substances he can do and all the combinations, and he's had all he's had all the new houses, all the cars, and then you wake up in a room like, what does this mean? And somebody's like, I got a new take on Jesus for you.
Oh,
yeah.
You gotta wonder, man. Like,
that's why you got to pull out earlier. That's why you got to as far as once you get to that, if Bieber retired 5 years ago.
Is this the guy?
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, that is a new take on Jesus.
I want to get this guy on my podcast. 3 hours. I bet you could find out what the fuck that dude's all about.
Yeah, that is a new take on. Look at that with the haircut and everything.
Yeah,
it's like the Jesus beard, but Jesus with the hipster haircut.
Yeah, he looks like a band member.
Yeah, it looks like
like he's in. Like I could see him with a neck tattoo.
Yeah, see this is like grungy Jesus because he's not like pastors normally wear suits and stuff, but yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, new take on Jesus.
I don't think that anybody can get through what Bieber did and be any better than he is. I think it's insane to think that you could take a child and not have them go through the normal developmental shit that we all go through of not being liked and trying to get people to like you and dating a girl and getting your heart broke and getting in a fight and getting in arguments and not having any money,
egging your neighbors' houses and
getting a fucking neighbors' mansions.
Oh, that's
And I mean, he did a lot of fucked up shit, but I mean, he is essentially like living out his adolescent with $1 billion in public.
Yeah,
it's insane.
And I mean, we already saw how that works out with Michael Jackson. Like it doesn't
go well for anybody.
Yeah.
Who the fuck has ever got through? Maybe Jodie Foster, but I don't know her.
But
she might be the only one.
But I think she got through it. But she also turned the volume way down. Like Jodie disappeared. She moved to Paris. She lived her life. She had a whole family that people were like, I think she
where the fuck is she?
And so she it's like Kurt Russell's another dude who like was a huge movie star as a kid, and now it's just like not. But most people don't get through that. You know? Like the entire cast of Different Strokes is gone. Like maybe not Todd Bridges.
Todd's
but
still around, but he's fucked up.
Yeah, it's like that. That's not a. I have my daughter. I have 2 daughters, but my oldest daughter is definitely a performer and wants to be in stuff. And I told my agent yesterday, if you ever see me bring her in here, like I think we're ready. I'm like that means we're done. That means that I've lost all perspective because.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you're even a person until you're 25. You're like a work in progress.
That's why they don't let you rent a car until you're 25.
Yeah.
We need a person behind the wheel of this car.
Yeah, by the way, I didn't have that opinion until like maybe about 5 or 6 years ago. I'm like slowly starting to develop that, like realizing that when you see someone who's young and stupid and doing dumb shit, like, oh, their fucking brain's not even ready yet.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, the older you get, you might keep raising that level, too. You might end up being 30 and then
maybe
40.
50.
Yeah. that age bias. You know what? I think it's probably 60.
I don't even think it's an age bias. I think it's just understanding who you are now today is very different than who you were a decade ago or two decades ago.
And if you're not, you fucked up.
Yeah.
Like I think that's a Muhammad Ali quote. A man who thinks the same way as 50 as he did at 30 has wasted 20 years of his life. It's just like you should be going through some new experiences.
You should be wiser.
Yeah, you should be wiser. And you should be like, man, I can't believe I did that dumb shit. Yeah,
that's why it's really sad when you talk to someone who's 50 who doesn't know anything about the world, doesn't read, doesn't pay attention, isn't watching
That's what I think is so
documentaries.
awful about Trump is he seems completely uncurious. Like he doesn't seem like a curious individual. He doesn't seem like, to me, that's the worst. That's worse than dumb. That's worse than racist. Like I just feel like he's just completely uncurious about the outside world.
Well, also the way he like adorns his homes with gold, like a 12-year-old,
like a kid
that just got like a magic bottle.
Yes,
like that he gets to rub. He gets to rub this genie bottle.
Yeah,
and they're like, what do I want? I want everything gold. the furniture, the seal, the chandelier.
And if it's not actual gold, I want it gold colored. You know, like the people, because the White House. There's people who work at the White House forever, no matter who the president is. You know, those people are in there like, oh God, he's redecorating everything gold.
What is he doing? Is that what he's doing in the White House?
There's a whole renovation that's happening. Like that's why part of the reason they said he went on his 17-day break is that they were doing a bunch of renovations in the White House.
And is he allowed to just do whatever he wants?
You do whatever you want.
So what if you wanted to do like black light paintings of Jimi Hendrix and Bruce Lee?
Yeah. That's the problem with the presidency. Heretofore, we thought there was limits on stuff.
Right.
And Trump doesn't believe in limits.
Because
so,
everybody was reserved.
We thought, naturally, the natural selection of running for president only elevates the best people or the people most prepared for the job. And I mean, I'm not, obviously,
Right.
there's lots of people you can point to and go, that person. But generally, people thought that, like, just the natural selection process, like, in the same way that, like, kind of like Conor McGregor just upset the whole thing. Usually, we thought up until then you had to be a professional boxer who had lots of fights before you got to Floyd Mayweather.
Right.
And then Conor was like, I don't think that's the way that works.
Well,
yeah. And I'm not mad. This is not
that's
about
a completely different situation.
Yeah, but I'm not. This is not about me. I think I'm
Yeah.
a big Conor fan, so I'm not mad. At
But
that
no,
at all.
you're right. It's like
But
a new way
It's
to
a new
the
way
top.
that people are like, I didn't know you could do
Yeah.
that, and then it makes other people. So I think Trump has done that to the presidency, where it's like we thought there was just the process of natural selection. Ended up with somebody who at least had a through line of an idea. Because
Right.
if you don't agree with George W. Bush, or you don't agree with Clinton, you at least knew there was a through line of an idea. And I think with Trump, there's not the belief that there's a through line of an idea.
Yeah, and there's also this idea that he wings things.
Yes.
Like he gets and has these press conferences, like that one that he had that was really set a lot of people back, like just a couple of months into his presidency, where he went on this like 70-minute rant and just, rallied about fake news, and people came out of that going, what in the fuck was that? Like,
Was
we
that
never
the
saw
one
a
in
president do
Phoenix,
that.
or?
No, that was that recent?
Recently,
one
the
of
Phoenix, yeah.
No, I'm talking like way early.
Okay.
Like
Yeah,
one of the
yeah.
first ones that he did. I remember I got texts from friends who were Republicans who were like, this is not good.
Yeah.
He seems unstable.
Yeah. No, and I think the one in Phoenix felt a little bit like, it's a little bit like Jeff Foxworthy doing the old "you might be a redneck" jokes. Like, dude, write some new stuff. Like, if he was still doing like the same stuff. Like, he's still going over the same. He's still legislating. He's still, like, dude, stop saying crooked Hillary. We have moved as a nation. Even fans of Hillary are like, we got it. Move on.
Yeah.
He's still doing the same electoral victory and all these things that he's been doing. It doesn't seem like, get to a new idea, man.
Well, that was one of the really sad moments when he was confronted by a reporter, and he was talking about how he won by the biggest margin ever.
Yeah.
And the reporter said, well, actually, sir, that's not true because of this and that and that. And he goes, well, from Republicans, as a Republican. He's like, no, that's not true either. And he starts
Still not true.
rattling off
Yeah.
the actual statistic, and he goes, well, you'll agree that I won by a large margin, right? He goes, you are the president. Thank you. It's like, what? Who are you? Like, what kind of crazy ego battle is that to have on live television?
This is a guy who's way more related to Bieber than he is to any other president, as far as like he's surrounded by people who have told him good job, good decision. I mean, the insanity of, like, first of all, there was the fake Time magazine cover that was in his golf courses. I mean, that's insane. That's not
insane.
That's just, I mean, we've all taken the fun fake magazine cover, but we don't put it up and make people think it's real. You know what I mean?
That is insane.
Then there's another one that I just found out recently. At one of his golf courses, there is a fake Confederate monument. There's like a plaque that says there was a battle here. That was they call this the River of Blood. The da 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 da. And they talk to historians like none of that happened. It's got Donald. It says Donald Trump under the bottom, like he's saying Donald J. Trump. This is what happened here. And it's not like, oh, it's an exaggerated.
Donald Trump's golf course plaque honors fake Civil War battle. Holy shit.
The River of Blood. People are like, this was never.
Holy shit. That is insane.
I mean,
A
to me, that's
plaque-
like, yeah.
The Potomac River near the 15th green is shown during round 3 of the Senior PGA Championship at Trump National Golf Course on May 27th. 2015 report about a factually inaccurate plaque featured at Donald Trump's Northern Virginia Trump National Golf Club has resurfaced this week in light of the president's controversial remarks about the violent weekend in Charlottesville. Fucking A, man.
And they went to like 3 different historians, and they were like, yeah, he's not even getting something wrong. It's not like, that didn't.
Do you think he did that, or someone did that and brought it to him?
In the New York Times story, they questioned him about it, and he says, no, I talked to historians who said it was a very blah, 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 blah. It's in the, no way. Nothing like that ever happened there, Richard
He was
Gillespie.
adamant about the accuracy of the plaque. However, and told the publication that he was certain that the area was a prime site for river crossing, so if people are crossing the river and you happen to be in a civil war, I would say that people were shot. A lot of them. What? Does he understand how war goes? Like, you don't, just because you're in war, when you're walking around, it's like you don't get shot everywhere you are.
Yeah, just because you're in war.
Because the battle's not everywhere people are.
Trump, a self-professed big history fan, was unable to name the historians he claimed had told him the site was known as the River of Blood.
Wow.
This is it's so.
Wow.
To me,
wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, and that's been there for a while. So to me, it's like this is where the press, forget the fake news media, the fake news. This is where the press really fucked up, is by entertaining him through the election season without really making a hard effort to go right at the truth of the matter. Like people thought, again, I think people were seduced by the idea, well, he's not going to win, so
he's going to drain the swamp.
We're getting good. And well, I mean, even people who didn't agree with him, people on the left who were like, he's not going to win. I had friends who were like, I don't even waste time thinking about him. Yeah. And I was like, you better probably want to waste some time. Yeah. People didn't go after him hard enough about all these little things. Meanwhile, Barack Obama had to pull out several copies of his birth certificate. You know what I mean? Like, and yet people want to go, I don't know if he's racist, Trump. I don't know.
Well, here's my take on it. I don't give a fuck if he was born in Kenya.
Yeah.
I don't care. I don't remember where I was born. They told me I was born in New Jersey, but I wasn't there.
Yeah. You were there, but you weren't paying attention.
I wasn't there. Like,
yeah.
I was barely out. I didn't understand words. Like, I didn't understand cities.
Yeah,
It's not your choice where to be born. The idea that you're better off because your choice was by divine birthright, you were shit out in Michigan.
Yeah.
So you could run this country.
That's why the whole immigration thing and the refugee thing is ridiculous.
It's insane.
But it shouldn't matter, but it does matter. And also they were using he was born in Kenya as a way to promote a lot of conspiracy theories that were connected to him that were that if you start to buy it was a fake birth certificate because his parents when he was born knew he was going to be the first black president, so they got him a fake Hawaii birth certificate, and then you attach a lot of things to him that illegitimize his presidency. Because if Trump had said, I don't agree with Obama's policy on this and this and this, and left all the other stuff behind, then let's see the run for president.
Well, the craziest one was that he was some sort of a Manchurian candidate, and he was some sort of a undercover Muslim that was sent to destroy America. He's trying to destroy America.
Can't he just be a disappointing president? Isn't that enough? Must we take it to that? That's the part about this disturbing, is that Obama, who was just they were questioning the legitimacy of his presidency, like just the fact that he shouldn't even be president because he wasn't born here in this country, and then with Trump, all these things should question. Is he fit enough to run for president?
Right.
Is he a serious enough person? Because I don't know. Can you question people's mental facility? But is he a serious enough person to run for president? It's clearly no. He's not serious enough to be president. You have fake Time magazine art.
The fake Time magazine one is almost inexcusable. I mean, absolutely inexcusable.
And he said he had been on the cover of Time more than anybody else, which is, again, it's like, this is not true.
But had he been on the cover before? Actually,
but he had been. I think we'd have to look this up. He had been on the cover, but not that picture. It wasn't that picture. It wasn't that. There was.
But why would he do that then? Why wouldn't he just frame the real one?
You have to ask your.
But that's what's crazy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the guy has actually been on Time magazine. So if he has, I don't know that he has.
But he's certainly been on the cover of magazines. I mean,
for sure.
Yeah. It's like, get another one.
Yeah, get one that you've been on. It's not like you're not famous.
Yeah, that's the weird part.
Yeah.
But he needs to feel like the most famous. He needs to feel like the.
But what do you think? What's the thought process behind that? Did someone bring that to him? Did he say, I need to be on Time magazine? If they don't want to put me on, make me a fake one. Right there. That's a real one?
No, that's the fake one.
That's the fake one.
Yeah, because look, even Time magazine would never say Trump is hitting on all fronts, even TV. It's not Entertainment Weekly.
That's so gross. Obama's next move. Can he curb healthcare costs? How stressed is your parent? Oh, that's weird.
Yeah.
The Apprentice is a television smash. Wow.
I feel like somebody made it for him as a joke, and then he,
Is this real? This one's real?
I think so.
Okay, what does it say there? This man may turn you green with envy or just turn you off. Flaunting it as the game and Trump is the name. That seems like a real one.
Yeah, but it's also not complimentary enough.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's not hitting on all fronts.
He's not. Trump is hitting on all.
Yeah, how weird.
Many people have looked at the original. It's like it's clearly not the right. Like the font isn't laid out. There's all sorts of things that make.
Yeah, well, it looks fake.
Yeah,
it looks fake.
It looks like when you go to like a carnival and they give you put you on the cover of Sports Illustrated.
I don't like his lips. There's something about his people, like when they make faces with their lips, like you can kind of tell if they're kind.
Yes.
It seems so weird to say that, but it seems to be true.
Well, yeah, it's like he does not. Again, he does not.
Angry.
He looks like he's perpetually either he looks disappointed when he sits there.
It's the massive amount of money and power.
Yeah.
And then deciding, I want to run the thing.
But he didn't really want to be. That's the thing. He didn't really want to be the president.
You don't think so?
No. I think he. I don't think he could have anticipated that he was running against 16 people, or was it 15 people who just couldn't, who should have all been the clear, like, you know, any of them should have been like, well, my Jeb Bush, who gives, but none of them had enough personality to top him.
Jeb Bush seemed like he didn't really want to do it either. Seems like he was kind of like half-assing it.
Well, I don't think George W. really wanted it either. That's the amazing thing about America. You can become the president and not even really want it if you're a rich white dude. Like, you can say, I guess I'll be the president.
Well, who the fuck is going to do it next? That's what's going to be interesting. And
I just hope it's not the people whose names I already know. I hope it's not. People talk about maybe Biden. Can it not be somebody? Maybe. I just feel like the thing about that was exciting about Obama, the black thing was exciting for me personally, but the fact that he was under the age, like he was in his 40s, that was exciting. Like it was like a president who had actually, you know, had life, and also still had a lot of life ahead of him. You know, like the idea that now that he's done, he's still like a young old man. You know, that he had done things you had probably done. He was like, yeah, I did a little coke. He had done. You know, he probably played video games. He understand. You know, the reason why he became such a pop culture president, because it was like he would say, I listen to Jay-Z, and you're like, I believe he probably does. You know what I mean? Like it just felt like he felt like somebody who was connected to us in a way that like Trump is not. He's not one of the. That's the whole. He's not one of the people.
No.
And he's never tried to be one of the people.
No, it's so strange. I've never felt like more disconnected than right now from politics and from like I've never felt like the president is more disconnected from the people of the United States either. And the people that support him, boy, I've never seen that before either. The type of people that are like really into Donald Trump being president. Yeah. You know, it's just everything that he says, they hang on every word, they turn everything into a positive, they spin everything, they hashtag MAGA. Yes. You know, it's like it's really odd.
And it feels to me like it's a very much you got Obama, we get him. Like it feels like it's very like they were sick of the love that Obama got. Even though by the end, I mean, Obama got a lot of love, but it wasn't as fervent by the end, you know. But, I mean, until the end, then he got fervent right before he left. But it's a real sort of like a lot of that love of Trump comes from, it's real like, it's like wanting to spite liberals. Like, you know, ha, ha, ha. Yeah. Like, you don't care if Trump does something that's bad for you if it hurts a liberal's feelings. You know, like you just want somebody who is hurting Hillary, you know what I mean, or hurting the liberals. It's not about what's good for you, because if you're looking at what's good for you, this is not good for you.
Yeah. Well, it's also like getting some sort of a reasonable conservative that would someone would step up right now would be very interesting. It would be very interesting. Like if you could find someone who's a reasonable conservative who knows how to debate and can form a sentence and can respond under pressure to like what Trump also brings to the table is he's like this ominous sort of character.
Yeah,
you know?
It's like a Mardi Gras float that walked into the room. It's like it's a lot to deal with. It's a lot to deal with.
It's weird.
Yeah, and I think that the problem is that, you know, there's all these people who are trying to position themselves as the Trump alternative, but then if you dig too deep into their records, it's like, well, they really support all the things Trump supports, but they're just not out loud racists. So it's like it's not really like it's not an alternative. It's like I think both parties, you got to be looking for new people. Like I feel like I always said, like in the 80s, it felt like the NBA just went to Africa and grabbed tall people. Like, you know, like they were just like we need to find some new people, and they got Dikembe Mutombo and Hakeem Olajuwon, and it's just like they were just like we need to go. And I feel like if I'm the Democratic Party, I'm scouring the United States of America for people who nobody's for like, is there a city comptroller somewhere who's got a good speaking voice? Let's go get that dude. I feel like you can't be looking at the regular halls of power.
Do you watch House of Cards?
I do. Yeah.
Do you wonder if that's how it really goes down? I want to know how fucking accurate it is. I want to know who's killed people. I want to know if Clinton sent some mercs out.
I have to feel like that probably no senator has pushed or representative has pushed somebody into a subway train. I have to sort of
spoiler alert.
Season 1, well, season 2. I have to believe that it's, but I do believe I think some of it is true.
Some of it's got to be right.
Some of it's got to be based on truth. But the thing is, I didn't watch this season of House of Cards because I was like, I can't. I have to be focused on the real House of Cards. Like I couldn't. I was watching it like this. It didn't land in the same way.
Oh, but it's so good.
Okay, I'll go back.
Get back in there.
I just was like, I was watching it thinking it like like watching Trump tweets. Like I couldn't focus on that. I'm like, it's really bad over here, guys.
I wonder how it's going to play out. Do you think he's going to make it through 4 years in the White House?
I think we have to. Those of us who don't think he should make it through 4 years in the White House, or hope that he resigns or gets impeached, can't take it for granted that's going to happen.
No.
I don't think we can. So is he going to make it through 4 years? History says yes. Most of them do. There's not a point at which it's very the impeach thing, and also the impeach thing doesn't necessarily get you out of office.
Right.
It just So I think that.
Clinton was impeached.
Yeah.
People forget.
Yeah, no, it's like impeach doesn't mean you're fired as much as we'd like to believe it does. So I think if I'm in Vegas, it's way more likely. It's like the Floyd Mayweather McGregor odds. It's way more, bet that he makes it through.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that things are already off the rails. So I don't think we can go, well, clearly.
The spooky thing is a second term.
I think the reality is that after 4 years, this is the thing, if he does last through 4 years, that he gets to the end of 4 years like, I don't want to do this again.
Maybe, right?
That this is really hurting. It's also it's because it's hurting his business brands. He's people are canceling hotel reservations, and I think that if he sees his bottom line going down instead of going up.
But is it?
I mean, this is what I've heard, that a bunch of people have pulled out reservations from Mar-a-Lago and things like that. So
didn't they take the name off of one of his buildings in downtown in New York?
That makes. I mean, can you do that? Is
one
that
of the condos.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they decided to take the name off of one of the condos.
It's not a good look anymore. It doesn't say. Yeah.
People weren't buying condos.
Yeah.
They didn't want to.
No.
Yeah.
It's like
find out if that's
Bernie
true.
Madoff business management. That's probably not a good idea. it's probably, yeah. But I do think that if it's really, because it certainly has. There's reports that have Ivanka's brands are down. The things people are not. They thought this was going to help that stuff,
right?
And if it's not helping that stuff, and at the end of 4 years, and I think he could leave because he's annoyed by it all. But he'll have some big speech about, I've done what I came to do, and I think I've really drained this. He'll just say he did, and his people will be like, yay,
Yeah, talk about how unemployment was at the lowest rate in 15 years.
Even though the arc that unemployment is on is the same arc that it's been on. It's
economy arc, same
it's all going on the same path that it's always been on.
I think there was some initial speculation that he was going to be good for business, and then there was some sort of a rise in the Dow.
But what is it? Is that all that's important? It's good for business?
Trump named to be removed from 3 Manhattan apartment buildings he doesn't own. Oh, he doesn't own them.
No, yeah.
Well, I think he sells. I know he sells his name a lot. People think he owns more than he owns.
Oh, okay. They've been owned by a Chicago-based real estate equity firm, Equity Residential, since 2005. Now, Trump Place will remain on the condominium buildings 200, 220, and 240 Riverside Boulevard, which neither Equity Residential nor Trump own. How weird. For now.
Yeah.
They're going to remove it, though. Huh.
Well, a lot of it was he was selling his name to stuff or licensing his name to stuff. So it wasn't.
Weird.
People thought he had more than he had, which is why he doesn't want to show his tax returns, because it's not as
How weird is that? He doesn't show his tax returns.
The rules are different. I mean,
How is that?
The rules are different for rich white men. The rules are different.
But is that like a mandatory thing? Because
no, it's not.
Obviously
it's
isn't.
not. It's not a legal thing. It's just what has been done. And the problem is again, they may make it after Trump that it's a legal thing. All these things were sort of like that the president were just what had been done and what people assumed would always be done. And then Trump, the one shining grace of Trump is that it exposes how that stuff isn't. We think there's more. That it's more complicated to become the president and more complicated to be the president, and that there's more restraints on the president than there actually are.
Yeah.
So now that we know that, maybe, but when Trump leaves eventually, I think forget Republicans, Democrats, it's on the benefit of for the benefit for the entire world that the president they can't launch nukes.
Right.
That's just, I'm not making this a Republican or Democrat, it's just, it should be a couple more people than just one guy.
But what about pardoning people that are criminals? How the fuck is that the case? You have laws, but then you have a president who apparently can't be charged with laws or can't be charged with crimes, right? Yeah. Which is why these women that were trying to sue him, they can't do anything about it now that he's the president.
Is that what happened? Because I was like, what happened to all that?
No, you can't really do anything because it gets in the way.
Gets in the way of
the
business. Yeah. The unemployment line is going up. We can't really deal with women who say you were harassed.
Yeah, I think that's when these women were trying to sue him when he was running for president. I think he got rid of all that shit.
Wow, I was like, I should Google that. But yeah, that would happen. Okay, I mean,
and can he pardon himself? How does that work?
That's the thing. thing. People don't. There's like this weird. There's all this stuff that happens in the law where they're like, we've never actually asked that question because nobody thought that was a question that should be asked. Like nobody ever thought that a president would think to do that. So there's all these sort of things where it's like there's no. He could sign a thing, and then the Supreme Court would have to be like, "Is this okay? Is this okay?"
And they get a number of pardons too, right? Don't they get like 20 or something like that?
No, I don't think. Yeah, I think they.
Yeah,
they
I think they have a limited number though. I think there's a limited number.
So our pile got
listen, all right, you got 50 left.
Yeah, buddy.
It's like you're playing a game. All right, where do I go?
Yeah.
Where do I go with these pardons?
And now after you did Arpaio, it's like it's
even McCain freaked out about Arpaio. McCain's from Arizona.
Yeah, and he knows Arpaio's a criminal, you know? Now, the question is, why didn't you do something about it before McCain? Again, you don't have any jurisdiction in that way, but you could have used your bully pulpit more effectively if you thought he was a criminal before this.
No, in McCain's defense, he had a brain tumor.
I don't mean now. I mean
Probably
like 15, 20 years ago. I don't mean, I'm not saying.
Did a lot.
How many do Obama?
I don't know. This is a list. I'm just scrolling down it. It goes forever.
Yeah,
Holy
no, there's
shit.
hundreds. I think there's hundreds, yeah. And Obama didn't do the most. I want to be clear. But yeah, I think there's...
Is there a limit? Does it say how many?
I'm looking for a limit. This is on the justice.gov website.
I don't think there's a limit.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Pardons are so weird.
Yeah.
It's I know you're a criminal, but
I mean,
magic.
There is, I mean, the part of it that should be good is there are many people who are in prison, again, like we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
For things where you're like, the rest of your life, you know what I mean? Like, so there is a good side to this, but we thought that they would only be, but a lot of times it's like friends and colleagues, and the way I would pardon people. Like,
the Bradley Manning, Chelsea Manning thing. I mean, Obama pardoned her, right?
That was an example of like you have served. Obama was like, you have served more than enough time. Yeah,
212 people.
But that's not the most. I think that's the.
Oh my God! And commuted the convictions of a further 1,715 people.
Well,
Holy shit!
He had the thing where he actually went to federal prison and talked to inmates, and it was all nonviolent people. Again, the same thing. Right. People who've been convicted of nonviolent crimes who were just languishing in prison for you smoked a lot of weed and sold a lot of weed, but you've been here for 30 years.
Wow. Yeah, most granted clemency by Obama have been convicted on drug charges and have received lengthy and sometimes mandatory sentences at the height of the war on drugs. That's the scariest thing about that Jeff Sessions asshole. He wanted to bring that stuff back and bring back Just Say No and start arresting people for pot. Like, come on, man. It's 2017.
Yeah,
we got to catch up.
Well, yeah, we were about to catch up.
Yeah,
we were getting close. We were getting closer. Like, because I feel like even if you had a 45-year-old Republican president, they would be more open to things than the 71-year-old Trump, or any 71-year-old Republican or any 71-year-old Democrat, just by the nature of the fact that, like, for the most part, 45-year-old Republicans don't care about where people go to the bathroom as long as they,
again, old people shouldn't be running shit.
I did this joke briefly, but I didn't stick. But it was the idea that, like, you can be too young to vote and you can also be too old to vote.
Oh, fuck yeah, you can.
So, like, the idea
and
that,
to
like,
drive.
Yeah, that, like, there's a point at which there's a meaty part of life where you're in the world doing things and you're in the mix, and there's a part where you're sort of like, where I think, well, at least we should do some checks first. We should, for
sure. Can you do a cartwheel?
Yeah. Can you walk in a straight line? But I just think that, like,
how well does your body
I just think
work?
it doesn't make sense that it would be the oldest person to be the it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't.
Well, it does if it's an incredibly wise old person who's, like, learned a bunch of things and has control of their ego and is a person who really wants to make the world a better place.
But is also on some HGH so they can actually live up to the rigors of the job. You know what I mean? Like,
well, what did you read about Obama, like, not Obama, about people thinking that Trump's on stimulants?
I couldn't find. I don't remember where I saw it from, because when I looked it back up, like, it said there's no real history of him using drugs, but some people have had rumors that maybe he was doing, like, fen and whatnot in the 80s or something like that. But
stimulants.
I didn't find anything.
I wonder where the guy gets the energy. Like, when he was doing that whole thing with Hillary, and then it was revealed that Hillary, when they were running for president, was on New Vigil or Provigil, which is a narcolepsy drug. So they give it to fighter pilots to keep them awake.
Oh, okay.
I've taken it before. It's interesting.
She was actually on this?
Yeah, actually on it. Yeah, for sure. And a lot of people take that stuff.
Yeah.
And what it does is it kind of keeps you awake. and it keeps you alert even if you start getting tired. It keeps you from falling asleep.
Okay.
But it doesn't speed you up.
Nodding out at a press conference or
but it doesn't speed you up, which is interesting because it doesn't it's not like
so you're not tweaking.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like an amphetamine. It's some weird thing.
Yeah.
It was essentially originally created as a performance-enhancing drug, but they needed some sort of a reason to medically prescribe it to people. So they went, narcolepsy? And so they just, narcolepsy. So they ran with it.
I might have just actually found it.
Yeah? What do you got here? But is it legitimate?
I don't know if it's his actual truth, but it's a MSNBC.
Fun fact, in 1982, Trump started taking amphetamine derivatives, abused them, only supposed to take 2 for 25 days, stayed on for 8 years, really. How the fuck does he know?
Yeah, I don't know.
When you're saying something like that, man, you gotta have something other than fun fact.
It's a tweet storm. Is there something at the end where he's got like
a tweet storm? I love that fucking expression.
I just texted it to somebody. I'm like, what is happening to my life? Check out this tweet storm.
Tweet storm. Dr. Joseph. What does it say up there?
Okay.
It said the doctor wrote the prescriptions. Dr. Joseph Greenberg diagnosed him with metabolic imbalance, which we have never heard about again. Greenberg was later publicly slammed as someone who provides uppers to rich people in Manhattan. A metabolic imbalance, if true, could be electrolyte insufficiencies, anaerobic imbalances, acid imbalances, an assortment of related disorders that can have serious health consequences. Yet his other doctor, Dr. Harold Bornstein, said he had been Trump's doctor since 1980 and never mentioned the metabolic imbalance found by Greenberg. How does he know this, though? Like, you have to kind of like.
He says he's writing a book and doing research, so I don't know where he found it.
You gotta have.
He's a legit journalist. But yes, you do have to. But he also is certainly opening himself up to being sued if it's not true. So
he's going to be sued if it is true, right? Don't you think?
Yeah.
But that would make sense because if you see like how much energy he had when he was doing the campaign against Hillary, god damn, the guy never got tired.
Yeah, and he would go up there and just yammer for
talk. The White House admitted it to me, said only for a short time for diet when he was not overweight. I countered with med records. They cut me off. People misreading. Drug was. Diethyl.
He's got the Dwayne Reed in Manhattan where it was filled at.
7 milligrams a day. Prescription filled at Dwayne Reed on 57th Street in Manhattan.
75 milligrams.
75 milligrams a day. Yeah, I don't know what that is though.
Compared to like,
he certainly is writing a book. He's apparently, he's
interesting.
He's certainly.
Well, that would make sense. That would make sense why he has this kind of energy. I know so many journalists that are on Adderall, and I have a friend who told me that they're all on it. I mean, I don't know what that means. I mean, 80%, but 60. What does it mean? But he's like, listen, man, they're all on Adderall, and that was one of the things that when what was his name? That guy that crashed his car under suspicious Michael Hastings. Remember that? Crashed his car under suspicious circumstances, and they said, oh, well, this guy had meth in his diet. He had amphetamines in his blood. He was probably fucked up on pills. No, he's probably a fucking journalist.
Yeah.
They're all on amphetamines.
Yeah.
And that's what Adderall is. It's a prescription amphetamine that you can get. If it's like, man, I've been kind of dragging ass lately, wink, wink, you got a good doctor. Good doctor says.
I've never had that doctor. I've been dragging ass lately. You should probably exercise and get more rest. Damn it.
Oh, this motherfucker's real.
Damn it. You're right, but isn't there other things you could do? Yeah.
What I
My
need is
TV told me to ask about these things.
Hey, bro, I got back pain. Ooh,
yeah.
Right now,
Yeah.
I'm always tired. Oh, I need everything. I want
stressed.
You to soothe my back pain and give me. I want to float through life with not a care in the world, so I can take care of my family business.
Yeah. I'm really stressed out. You need to organize your day better and make sure
you motherfucker. That's not what I was looking for. Oh,
would you like to talk to a therapist? Yeah. But
yeah. We got to get someone like Elon Musk. We got to get like some super genius who seems to be able to do everything.
Well, that's the thing. The other sort of good side of this is that it has certainly opened up the possibilities of who can be the president.
Yeah.
Like it is completely blown. Now, will some person who's not a Republican, like step through, like will a liberal step through that? Will the Democratic Party support that person? Because that, you hear like The Rock might run for president.
He's gonna probably. He'll probably do it while he's working out. He'll probably be on a fucking elliptical machine
on Instagram
while he's talking.
He's live streaming his run for president. Yeah. I mean, but the Democratic Party might be like, we don't really, are they going to get behind that kind of person?
They don't have a fucking choice if it's The Rock. If The Rock decides to run for president, I'll fucking help him.
Although the funny thing is, people are like, we don't even know that The Rock is a Democrat. We don't know he's not a guy who has declared his political affiliation.
That's true.
And he's a rich guy.
So that's true too.
Yeah,
but he's so rich, he probably doesn't even notice his taxes.
That's what, yeah.
You know what I mean? The Rock has hit that elite stratosphere. Where like, if if it's like $3 million more for taxes, he's like, who gives a fuck? I gotta lift weights. Why are you bothering me?
Why are you bothering
I'm trying to get my pump on over here.
Yeah.
Dude, let's move on to less depressing shit because I want to talk about I want to talk about your show.
Okay.
And what has this been like for you? Because your show is a very unique show on CNN, and it seems like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like you have a lot of creative leeway on that show.
I mean, it
seems like you.
Yes, that's the thing about the show that has been it's been so cool because, I've had a career where I was like sort of in the trenches, for a long time, just trying to figure it out and didn't think I'd ever get this opportunity. And the way that I got there was not some way that made any sense. But now I sit in a room, I just had a kickoff meeting yesterday, and it's a room full of people like, what do you want to do, Kamau? And, and it's like, I feel super #blessed to be in that position. And yeah, because it's like, it was not something that 5 years ago I wasn't like, it'll probably end up in a CNN. And also to be at CNN, that wasn't like, none of these things were on my like.
How did it happen?
So after my show, Totally Biased, that Chris Rocket, executive produced, I was didn't have a job, didn't know what I was going to do. We were in New York,
and that was on FX.
On FX, and then FXX, and then get the FX out of here. So yeah, it was on FX. Now FX is a legit channel, but my show helped launch FX and didn't do a good job, so that's why the show got canceled. But so I started to take meetings, like general meetings, and I ended up and it was all with sort of news organizations, like little online. Like I found it wasn't like entertainment channels. It was all these news things that thought like you could do something here with your thing, and nobody had a real idea. And I went to CNN and met Jeff Zucker, had a 15-minute meeting with Jeff Zucker where he was like had 18,000 TVs on and gave me a news quiz. He's like, you pay attention to the news? I go, yeah. And he gave me a news quiz to see if I paid attention to the news.
Really?
Yeah. Like he's like, let's see. I'm gonna give you a quiz.
Like, what did he ask you?
It was all the kind of shit that if you have the CNN app on your phone, you would know all of it. It's like it was really like it was just the big news stories of the day. Like it was like, do you know what WhatsApp is? WhatsApp had just been bought by Facebook. I was like, yeah, it's an app that was bought by Facebook. Like it was like a game show. Yeah, and it was just like, I mean, it was funny, but he just wanted to see. People don't have much respect for comedians. I don't mean Jeff as people who are paying attention all the time. I think he wanted to see if I was for real, and I was like, yeah, so. And then,
they want to see your mindset. Well, are you concentrating on being the next Kevin Hart? Or are you concentrating on actually? Do you have any actual interest?
Can you come into this news space and be well? Can you? Because on CNN, you can't. You have to sort of be paying attention to the news. So can you pay attention to what's going on here? The Bridgegate thing had happened. He's like, "What do you think Christie should do?" And I sort of riffed some things out. And he's like, "All right."
Get on some of the same shit Trump's on. Lose some weight.
So then they had been pitched a show by this company, All 3 Media, now Main Event Media, called Black Man, White America, where a black man travels around to white spaces in America. That was the premise. And they told me that, and I was like, I don't want to do, I wouldn't want to do that. I'd want to do it if I could travel to more than just white spaces. And they liked that idea. And then the guy, Jimmy Fox, he hates when I tell the story because he's like, it was he realizes now it was not the best idea. But it was like, so then he changed it to United Shades of America, and then we pitched the Klan episode. That was my idea to talk. The pilot episode was me with the Klan.
What the fuck was that like?
I mean, it's funny, people ask me that, and I feel like it's exactly what you think it was. It was because it was different versions of the Klan. The big one was where I went to the cross burning, what they call a cross lighting. Got to be politically correct. I drove into this place. I had the camera crew. There was one security guy. Oh, there we go. That was my first day at work on United Shades of America. That was the last thing we did that day.
Look at the trailer.
Yeah. No, it was off in the woods in Kentucky, and that was my first day on the job. This was the last thing we did was watch a cross burn. And also when we got there during daylight, so we had to be there for 2 or 3 hours while like they like did all their rites. Where I talked to them and interviewed them, they did rites and rituals, and then it ended with them setting the cross on fire.
And they were more than willing to do all this on television, which is even more shocking.
Yeah, they you can see up there. They most of them kept their hoods on, but one guy took his hood off so you could see his face. But yeah, they were all. Wow. I mean, people ask me like, why would they want to be on TV? Because everybody wants to be on TV. Like, we talked to a bunch of different Klan groups, and the producers did. Most of them didn't want to be on TV, but there was like 3 or 4 that did because they thought they were spreading the word. Maybe they were. So.
What was their message? Like when you were talking to them, like what was the reason for them doing this?
They believe America is a white country ordained by God that way. They believe the Bible says that's true. They believe the Bible
talks about America?
That's what I'm saying. It's like, I'm not telling you what I believe, but they believe that the Bible doesn't think that the races should mix. The Bible doesn't, all these things that people quote out of the Bible. The Bible's talking about donkeys, and they were like, they don't, and they believe that America is a white country founded by white people, and that the people who, like the black people and the Mexican people, and eventually the Catholics and the Jews, although I guess they're cooler with Catholics now, they used to hate the Catholics, should get to leave, go back home. And because America is the whole America is for white people, is the whole white, just a different way of saying the white ethno-state thing that a lot of the people out of the alt-right and the white nationalist movement say. And so, they think that they think the whole idea of America is that it's for whites only, and that the rest of us need to go home.
How did that feel for you?
I mean,
to be standing there with these people in the woods in Kentucky, looking into the eyes of madness, while they're wearing satin sheets over their head with little holes poked out for eyes.
Well, it was a lot of it that was fun. I mean, it was like we got there. I got out of the car, and there's a line in the show where you can hear me before you see them. I'm going like, "Oh, this wasn't a good idea," and that was really me saying, this was not a good idea. That was not me making a joke, because I see a phalanx of them, and they're all standing there at attention. And right when we got there, the guy who was in all blue was like immediately goes into a rant about Ferguson. It was in 2014, so it was all about Ferguson and how black people don't know how to police themselves, and the white man is going to da-da-da-da-da. While at the same time, they don't advocate violence, because it's clear that at some point they were told, if you talk about violence, the FBI will be here every weekend, So they're like, we don't advocate violence, we advocate self-defense. We don't hate black people, we just love our people. But also, black people can't, look what they're doing in Ferguson. That shows that black people aren't whatever, blah, 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 aren't the equivalent of the white man. And so when we first started shooting, there was just like, this guy was just going off, and I just sort of was like having to take it and wondering, is this going to be the next 3 hours? It's this guy just like yelling. And the producer stepped in and said, all right, everybody, we got to check the camera for a second. And we slowed it down, and then we set up chairs, and we sat down and started talking. And from that point forward, they were so excited to talk about their Klan thing, because they don't get asked that a lot. That they sort of like, eventually you would, if you weren't thinking that it was the Klan, you'd be like, yeah, this is just people talking about their lives. I don't agree with them, but they're not. They didn't stay angry. By the end, they were like, oh, brother, we had a good time, man.
Really?
Yeah, they certainly.
Did you guys hug it out?
No.
No.
I said to the crew, I was like, do not take any pictures of me hanging out, like laughing, because I'm doing it as a way, like, yeah, thanks, man. But
did you try to reason with them?
Yeah, no, I talked to because you go, well, like there was one point they said the Bible says that man should not da 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 da. I was like, yeah, but the Bible also says you shouldn't eat lobster. What do you think about lobster? I just went to Red Lobster last night, brother. And so they recognize the hypocrisy, but they can't see why it doesn't make sense. Like they don't see why. Like, well, if you're just saying these things. These aren't the Bible should not be the reason this is happening, And
so it's just a convenient way to justify them wearing their goofy clothes.
Yeah, and so they say they don't. This is called the new Klan. They don't hate black people. They just really love white people. But I feel like you can really love white people, but it shouldn't come at the expense of black people feeling safe or anybody feeling safe. It's the same thing with the alt-right. You can think what you want to think, but nobody should feel like their safety is being violated in that process. So, the funny thing is that. So we would film, and then we'd have to stop down because we were changing cameras. Whenever we'd stop down, they'd pull off the hoods off, and they'd be like, man, it's hot under here. And I was like, yeah, maybe you guys should have designed the hoods differently. More breathable fabric. Maybe get Under Armour in here. But we didn't use that on camera because we couldn't show their faces. But yeah, so it was like, there was like 2 different groups. There was one group who was okay talking to me, and then there was another group who every time we stopped down, they would go away. They would walk away. And one of them was this blonde one, the one who was in red. When she took her hood off, she was like, she looked like Britney Spears at 18, like this blonde, you know, as we found earlier, maybe I don't know what a pretty white woman looks like. She was, but she was a blonde, she had red fingernails, and she was wearing a red thing because she's 4th generation Klan. So her thing is all red, and she looked like she was
she's
like,
4th generation. She wears red.
You get to wear, that's
what's blue.
I didn't get the belt system. I didn't get the whole
4th generation Klan.
She every time she took her hood off, she looked like she wanted to kill me. You know, and never
fuck you.
Well, yeah, or that.
Probably.
Never. And I was like,
cut a couple drinks in there. You guys start dancing.
Well, I just felt like if I could just take you to LA, there's a whole life for you away from Kentucky where you would have I could make a lot of money off you, kid.
Isn't it so funny though that it's just what you're exposed to? If you're a young child and you just don't understand,
and you're born into the Klan, and there's not black people. There's not enough black people in your community for you to go, well, that's weird because these black people are fine. Because in this part of Kentucky, there's not a lot of black people. There are some, because that's black people are everywhere, but there's not enough to for these people to interact with, and you're told to avoid that black guy who works at the Home Depot. Then you end up, and you just see that it's about circumstance. It's not necessarily about, if you could get people out of these circumstances, I think they would change. But
it's the momentum of the input of the environment that you're in. It just gets people get so wrapped up in it and caught up in it, and it becomes how they think. And you don't want to stand out from the group. You don't want to be ostracized. And there's a fucking cross. It's not going to light itself. Come on.
They were really excited. Like this one guy I talked to, we sort of built a rapport in that moment, and he was excited to talk about how they burn. Where do you get the wood from? Why do you do he was excited. It was like, I call it this old cross. It was
Bob Vila.
Excited. He was excited to talk about this stuff, and so we sort of talked on that level. And I still asked and I was like, obviously, I don't agree with you guys. And I said it once, I was like, and hopefully at the end you'll let me leave, which I was kind of joking. And also at the whole time I was like, I don't know what if this is a setup? What if I'm here to talk to these 15 guys and then 100 Klans members run out of the woods to take down CNN? This is before fake news Trump. But I was like, I don't know. So the whole time I was there, I also felt like this could go bad at any time. Because when we pulled in, there was a guy holding a rifle, and we told him no guns, and he was like, well, I don't believe I'm going to bring my gun. And so it just felt like this could turn. I'm not going to do anything to turn it badly, but this could turn bad. And so it felt the whole time when I was making jokes with the Klan, as people go, how could you make jokes with the Klan? I was actually using self-defense. Because if you're making people laugh, they generally, and I wasn't making them laugh at my expense. I was just making them laugh about, well, that's weird. Why do you burn this? That it actually felt to me like I could gain control of the situation.
Did you have any sort of reasonable debate with them or rapport, any back and forth with them where you, was there anybody that you kind of felt like they saw how ridiculous it is?
No. I mean, I think I would make them laugh about ridiculous things that were happening. They were having a hard time, getting kerosene rags to wrap the cross in. And he was like, I need a Klansman over here. And I was like, what do we have to do to get a Klansman over here? And they're laughing, but I'm like, but there's not a sense of here's what I felt like. By the end, I knew some of those guys liked me in that moment. I felt like they laughed at what I said. They were certainly trying to chum me up, give me their business card. If you need any help, find another Klansman, because there's some Klansmen out here that are full of shit, and you need to go to the real. So there's that level of rapport.
Oh, so there's factions that disagree with other factions.
Yeah, it's like I feel like it's very similar to martial arts school. This is the real karate. That's not the real karate. Even though didn't you guys start at the same school? Yeah, but he didn't get the real stuff. So
oh boy.
But they were very chummy at the end, but also I was like, I'm gonna get the fuck out of here. But I did feel like some of these guys went to bed that night going, this is a lot of fun. I had a good time. Now, I'm not saying that they dropped the Klan thing because I didn't come back the next day. But they were like, I left there feeling like, I wonder if I came back in 6 months, just drove through and was like, hey guys.
Or you wonder if you guys were on some sort of reality show where you're stuck on an island for 6 months.
Yeah, I mean, I think the reason why big cities are generally more liberal than the surrounding areas is because everybody's on top of each other.
Right.
It's just because everybody's. I don't have time to hate you because you make. I like your bodega. Like you make I don't have time to hate you.
You become accustomed to each other, and you realize it's just people. And
you also the benefits of that thing. Like, hey, the Puerto Rican Day Parade is fun. You know what I mean? Like, it's like your life experiences are benefited by the fact that you're surrounded by lots of different people.
That is really interesting when you put it that way. I mean, you do find that the bigger cities tend to be way more liberal, like New York and L.A. in particular.
Certainly more liberal than the surrounding areas. Like, Houston is a blue dot, but it's not as blue as like Berkeley is. But the surrounding area is much different.
Sugarland.
So,
get out there. You go out there to the ranches.
Things
get a little crispy.
You're not from around here, are you? So I think that like. That to me, that's what the whole thing is that you're just not. You don't have enough. You don't get the benefit of having a diverse community because you're like, which Chinese restaurant do I want to go to? Not you want to go to the Chinese restaurant, that's run by the Chinese family who's like, this was a bad idea.
Well, it's also the fear, the fear of the other when you're not around them. I think if you're around people all the time that are all sorts of different people, it just you find assholes that are white and cool people that are brown, and you just sort of go, oh, they're just humans.
Yeah.
We're terrified, and so we lump off into groups. So we somehow or another have people that we relate to.
Well, I mean, I think it's the whole thing about like we have fear of the unknown. And somehow our fear of the unknown is the fear that somehow that unknown thing is going to hurt us or affect us in some negative way. When Obama first went into the White House, I would have lost money on marriage equality, gay marriage. I would have lost money. Like I was like, that's not going to happen. That's I would have bet 50 years. You know what I mean?
Really? Why?
Just because
I thought that ball was moving in that direction anyway.
But I still wouldn't have thought that it was going to happen within his. First of all, it's not an issue he came in campaigning on, so it wasn't like something that was. I didn't think it was on anybody's agenda. I knew it was on some people's agenda. There were people working on it, but I didn't think it wasn't something that it was like the nation didn't set that as a goal. It wasn't like a thing like Obamacare was like, we need to fix this. So it sort of happened in a way that like the people worked behind the scenes to make it happen. And then it just sort of, we woke up one day and opened our phones up and it was like, it's legal. Wait, what?
Federally.
Yeah, federally. Yeah. Yeah, like it just sort of happened. And you're like, wait, I thought nothing. That's it?
That was one of the most disappointing things about Hillary is that she didn't, up until 2013, she didn't support marriage equality.
Yeah, and I mean, Obama was like, he had the thing, and he sort of stopped talking about it for a series of years. And then eventually it was like, Joe Biden was like, I'm with it. And Obama had to be like, God damn it, Joe. Yeah, I'm with it too. Like I wasn't ready to say it yet.
Touchy subject among some people.
But I think, and it still is among some people. There's certainly people in this country. But there's a critical mass of people who are like, it doesn't actually affect me.
Right.
And right now we're going through that with trans people in bathrooms. Like it doesn't actually affect you. Trans people have been going to the bathroom for the entire existence that there's been bathrooms. You just didn't know. It doesn't actually affect you. Yeah. And I think you are sort of saying, this is weird to me, this is scary to me, so it's wrong. When it's like, no, it's just weird and scary to you. Those feelings are just the feelings of the unknown. Now assess the threat. Man, if that woman goes to the bathroom, she will have gone to the bathroom. Like there's not a threat that's coming after you.
Well, I think people are scared of people taking their clothes off.
But
that's what it is. It's people like, well, the genitals are going to be exposed and they're just going to go crazy.
Yeah, but the generals already were like, it's cool. We just need bodies. Like the military was already like, it already accepted trans people. They're like, we just need bodies. We need people here who are good soldiers.
Well, the military one is real weird because he apparently did that while the hurricane was hitting.
Yeah.
He pardoned Arpaio, did that, and there was one other thing that he did. I'm not exactly sure what it was.
He started bringing up the wall again recently.
Controversial things.
So,
trying to get Mexico to pay for the wall. Like, don't you think the Mexicans should be paying for education and take care of the poor people?
Yeah.
There's a lot of issues they have to take care of. They don't have time for your fucking wall.
And there's just no way you can make them pay for the wall. It's not a thing. You can't, I mean... Unless we're talking about invading Mexico and going into the banks, like is that what we're talking about doing?
Have you heard about the wall being a gigantic solar panel? That was one of the ideas to pay for the wall. That the wall would be a gigantic solar power to generate electricity, and that would pay for it.
Oh, that's. But then he'd have to accept solar panels. Like,
that's right. Yeah, run into problems with the cold folks.
Yeah.
Some people just want to burn trees. They just want to chop trees down.
Yeah,
make coal.
Yeah. For me, back to the whole thing with the show is like for me, it's not about me coming to agreement with people. Sometimes it's people like I do agree with, but I don't know your issue a lot, so I'd like to talk to you about it. It's just about the fact to me, it's like, it's about, we're going to have this conversation. People are going to watch this conversation, and that will create more conversation.
Well, you're getting this weird opportunity to be, again, like I'm saying, that you're you. Like, I know you. So when I see you on TV, I'm like, oh, that's you. Like, and that's not normal for a television show. Like, you notice when people take on the host of, whether it's the Tonight Show or one of those kind of shows, they automatically become this different thing than they usually are. They become like the host of a show.
Yeah. And for me, that the reason that is because there wasn't there's not a ton of these shows out there.
Right.
Like, so there's not like, it's like, oh, Kamau got that show. It's like talk shows. The minute I got totally biased, suddenly I'm seeing articles about the Tonight Show, you know, late show, and totally biased. Wait, what? And then I'm being compared to those people, and I'm being judged against, like, well, last night Fallon lip sync with Justin Timberlake, and Kamau talked to Laverne Cox. That's not the same thing. So that's what I didn't like about that, is that people were suddenly defining me against that thing, and I was not. And I would look at that show and be like, that's not me. And I had friends who'd watch that show and be like, that's not me. And then we'd write things for the show, and I'd say things like this, I don't believe this, you know, or I don't feel as passionately about this as this show makes me think I feel about this, because we just have to get the show done. Right. Whereas with this show, I can go, no, I'm not saying that, or I really want to say this, and I can rewrite things, and I can go, yeah. So it's
totally biased. You did in front of an audience, and it was like more of that. I don't think that form works. I don't think that's a good way. I don't think for anybody. I don't think it's a good way to have meaningful conversations in front of giant groups of people, and everybody's clapping. So you're trying to like play to them to make a good point. So you're not necessarily expressing yourself like what are the real thoughts going on in my mind, as much as you're just trying to like get those
win
hits.
points, and get laughs. And and the thing that I give credit to Chris Rock for this, because he's the one who made me do the Man on the Street segments on Totally Biased. He was like, you need to get out there. People don't know who you are. You need to mix it up with the people. And I was like, I really didn't like, whenever I saw people do Man on the Street, it was always like, hey, dummy, why'd you stop and talk to me?
Hey, you're a guy who doesn't have a lot going on.
Yeah, exactly. You decided to be nice and stop and talk to me. Now I'm going to punish you for it.
Right.
Aside from Billy on the Street, I think that's the version of it that I feel like is like those people get to have fun with it.
What's Billy on the Street?
Billy Eichner.
I've never watched that.
I mean, it's just whenever I see that, I go, he's the joke.
Right.
He's not making, it's not like the thing like, what year was the War of 1812? You idiot,
Right.
And so I feel like I'd only seen it that way. So when I did it, I was always like just trying to like let them talk, and then if they got the joke, I would tag the joke. Or if I thought of something funny, it wasn't necessarily against them. It was about something situationally that was funny. And so that trained me for United Shades. United Shades is the show. I think that's the only show I could ever do like that. I can't. There's not other shows in me where I would be on camera like that. I'm not an actor. I'm not trying to get a sitcom. I'm not. There's all these other things.
How refreshing.
Yeah, exactly. I just don't have any interest. I'm not trying to audition for movies. I don't audition for anything.
Good for you.
I live in Berkeley, so I'm not even available to audition for things. But this, I'm like, yeah, it's this or versions of this. But the thing was, it was basically, in my mind, it was based on like the Bourdain model and Morgan Spurlock's work, and even like Michael Moore's work, where I'm like, those things are about them.
Right.
That like when you watch Bourdain,
your perspective.
It's about this person, and you'd watch Bourdain. If you like Bourdain, you'd watch him do anything. It's not just about where he's going. It's like about, I just want to hang out with this dude for an hour. Yeah. And so I feel like with United Shades, the more it becomes that, I just want to hang out with Kamau for an hour. Then that's the show I want it to be.
Yeah, well, you figured out a way to do it, man, and kudos to CNN for allowing you to just be yourself.
Yeah, people always ask all the time, how much pushback do you get? I think the most pushback we got last season was we had 2 fart jokes in the show, and they're like, you have to pick one, you can't do 2. And I was pretty pissed. I'm like, but they're different fart jokes.
That's hilarious.
I didn't intentionally write 2 fart jokes into the show. It's just we have presented with 2 opportunities for fart jokes.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, so it was like, so they were like, but it's never like, they actually, and I want to be clear on this, they want the show, I always want the show to be smarter. They want the show to be smarter. I want the facts to be vetted and clear. They want that. They want the journalistic integrity because it's on a news network. But they don't pitch angles. Like for example, they're like, have you thought about doing anything with the Asian American community? That was what they said, and I was like, I'd like to talk about Chinatown. You know what I mean? So I got to take their suggestion and put it into my version of it, and I was like, I'd like to talk about Chinatown in San Francisco, so I can film an episode near my house and not have to travel. Right. And I'd like to meet Shannon Lee. So like we did Shannon Lee's in that episode.
Oh, Bruce Lee's daughter.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so it was like I got to make the version of the show I wanted, while at the same time talking about the history of Chinatown and doing all these other things. But it ended with me. The last line is like, you know, I really learned a lot this week. Who am I kidding? I just wanted to become friends with Shannon Lee. Like, you know, and because I'm a comedian, I can do that. I don't have to sort of have some sort of like, you know, this. And I sort of, sometimes the people who write, like, because people will write parts of the show and they will write it like the way a journalist would do it. This week I've learned that people come together. And there's some of that that's still in, so I have to keep sort of pulling out. Like, it's not
do you write monologues or do you just talk?
What happens is like with somebody, they will write like sort of a version of the script, and then I will get that, and then sometimes I will pull whole sections out, and then once we get into the VO booth, it's me and usually a couple other comedians like Ethan Berlin, Ron G. This season's gonna be Dwayne Kennedy, who we'll sit we'll be on the phone together in the VO booth and sort of like riff other things out. Yeah, so it's great to actually be able to hire, because I was clear with CNN, I need to hire comedians on this show.
Right,
it can't just be me and the news people or the TV people.
Well, it seems like not just a show, but also an opportunity for you to just sort of broaden your experience with human beings, which is interesting.
I mean, we went to Barrow, Alaska in the first season.
What is that? Where is that at?
It's the northernmost tip of Alaska.
Whoa.
It's inside the Arctic Circle.
Jesus.
Nobody visits Barrow. Like it's not like parts of Alaska where like Anchorage where no, let's go visit. It's not a place where it doesn't do tourism. You could go, but there's nothing to do there.
What time of the year did you go?
We went in. I think it was spring in the rest of America, but it was still like, you know, deep snow on the ground and frozen. But it was like -20.
There it is, right there. Jesus.
Yeah, it's inside the Arctic Circle. Like we actually walked so far north that we were on the ocean, but it was still frozen. You know, like
whoa.
Yeah. Yeah.
You were on the ocean and
it was just
frozen.
still, we were like standing on the water.
What did you do there?
It was the idea
that tiny little town.
Well, it was the idea because we just sort of figured where have you never been? Like sometimes that's how we have conversations. Where have you never been?
Right.
Like, we should go to Alaska. Well, let's not just go to regular Alaska. Let's go to the part of Alaska that even like we went to Anchorage for part of it, and even Alaskans don't go to Barrow because it's a place where people go there to work for the oil companies, and people work for companies that work for the oil companies. So it's not like. And it's like
so it's a camp almost.
It's a camp, but it's 4,000 people. You know?
Anchorage is a weird community. Anchorage, when I was there, one of the first things I saw when we were driving the rental car to the hotel was a group of people standing on the corner holding up signs saying "honk for equality." and all these people were honking as they drove by, and there was like all these people with like purple hair and shit, and I was like, oh, this is like a real city.
Yeah, no, Anchorage is like, I mean, it's like Bakersfield. It's like, I mean, it's not. It's cool. When I was there, it's a real. It's like you don't. For me, the only thing it was cold, but it wasn't even colder in another place, and there was more salmon choices. Like everything was like everywhere you went, they were like, and we have salmon, you know,
fresh halibut.
Yeah, and we have jerky, salmon jerky. So it was like that's why I'm glad we went to Barrow, because Barrow is like I loved it, and I was like, I'll never come back here again. Like there's no way that unless I was doing something, and so that for me, like that's what is fun. And that episode people like that episode a lot. I thought it was because it's not. Sometimes people think the show is just me talking to scary people, but most of the show is just me talking to people that I've never talked to before.
Just getting a chance to see America.
Yeah, and like so we did an episode about. We said we should do something with Muslims, but it's like, well, that's a big topic. But we went to Hamtramck in Dearborn, Michigan. It's a super small town, the highest percentage of Arabs and Muslims in America, like 30% Arabs and Muslim in this town, and it's like a sleepy suburb where you just happen to see lots of women in hijab walking around, but it's you sort of feel like, is this right? You know what I mean? And this seems weird. And it's just a sleepy suburb. I was outside of Detroit or inside of Detroit. There's Hamtramck's in the middle of Detroit, and it's just this small town that happens to be because of the Ford factory. Like it's one of the things that happens a lot with immigrants. Like the Ford factory was okay hiring immigrants back in the day, or Muslims back in the day. So then Muslims were like, everybody come here. Right. And so then it became a very populous Arab and Muslim town. But it's like, and then I got to sit down with a woman. Her name was Rima, and I just got to ask her all the dumb questions about Islam, and all the dumb questions about hijab and burqas, and and how that works with feminism. Can you be a feminist and a Muslim, or can you be a feminist and a woman who's wearing a burqa? And she's like, yeah, you can. It's a choice. So I mean, so I think that, And then we got to talk about, well, what about in Saudi Arabia? And they go, the government of Saudi Arabia does a lot of shit that's wrong, and they use Islam as a way to justify it, just like the way the American government does a lot of shit that's wrong and says God and country. You know, it's not about the religion, it's about the expression of the religion. So, you know, for me, it's like to be able to ask those dumb questions. We got to go to Standing Rock, in the middle of Standing Rock, and sort of like
while it was going down with the Dakota pipeline?
At the height of it, yeah.
Wow. What was that like? Did you get hosed?
No, I was I was there for a few hours. This was at the first third of it, I guess. So it was still not. It had not turned into that.
That was a very disturbing time.
Yeah,
because they were going through people's public or private land, and they were saying like, "No, we're going through."
Yeah.
But what is private land then?
Yeah.
If you just can decide to have your business go through my land and dig a fucking pipeline that may or may not poison my wells, if everything goes wrong, like what is public land? What is private? Is it all the government's land? Are they just usurping my private land? Like, this is kind of fucking crazy.
And the native people are like, yeah, this is what they do to us. This is how they are.
Yeah.
They're whatever the number of treaties, like, because people go, there's several hundred treaties, and they're like, they've broken all of them. Like, you know, not like half of them. They say they've broken all of the treaties. So the Native American people, like, that's why they had to make a big noise, because like, this is how they do, and this was like, it felt like the final straw. And so there were people like, we got there before the winter, and they're like, there's people in teepees who were like, and I had this whole conversation about how teepee. We used to think of teepee. I thought of teepees as like, you're gonna have teepees in the winter. They're like, yeah, they're better than tents. Like, they're just
because there's a hole in the top, and you can have a fire in the middle.
Yeah, I knew you would know. Yeah, so, but I was like, really? And this guy was like, yeah. And then I said to this one guy, I'm like, well, what do you do if it gets really, really cold? Go to the hotel down the street. Oh, all right. You know, like, it's just like, I was in this whole like native, you know, like, well, how would you? But then we go to a restaurant. You know what I mean? So it's like, that was one of my favorite episodes, because again, I got to sit and ask all the dumb questions that I have and other people have. And sometimes I ask dumb questions that I kind of know the answer to, but that's like, we need to ask the dumb questions.
Right.
When we have an opportunity to. Don't go tapping people in line at Starbucks and asking them dumb questions.
Yeah, the Dakota pipeline was extremely disturbing. Yeah. And it was one of the clearest examples of money over rights, money over land ownership, money over everything. We're going through with this thing. It's going to make us money, and this is what we're going to do.
You should get Tara Huska on here. She was at Standing Rock, and she speaks very awesome about all this stuff, and she's a hardcore activist. She was like Bernie Sanders' Native American representative, but and she's great about all this stuff. And you can talk about how to them it's like, this is just the most recent expression of this.
Can you spell her name?
Tara Houska. There he is. There she is.
There she is. Okay.
Yeah. And she was in the episode, and we sat down. I was like, I'm going to ask you a bunch of dumb questions. And she was like, great, here we go. You know,
right.
And talked about like, this is just the tip of the iceberg.
Where is that now? Where's that standing? Because when Trump got in office, he apparently like greenlit everything.
There's still people fighting against it, but it's not the same, you know, number of people out there. But they're still activists. She would be able to tell you more better than I would. But they're still, you know, they're still the same. There's still people fighting.
But they're going through it anyway, right? They're going right under the river.
Yeah.
And
again, this is where it gets a little bit out of my depth.
Yeah,
but yeah.
What was like I mean, I don't think there's probably any one thing that was most rewarding to you, but there was anything that you got the most out of during that show?
During the Native American show?
No, during your show.
United Shades of America?
Yeah.
Yeah. The San Quentin episode is actually the one that I feel like has actually affected me the deepest. That I've been back to San Quentin twice. Maybe twice since then. I co-hosted a talent showcase with one of the inmates.
Really?
Yeah, we were like on stage together. Like, he wrote bits for us to do.
No
and,
shit.
Yeah, I was riffing. You know, and it's this thing where, like, believe me, even though I had gone to San Quentin and filmed, you know, I went to San Quentin and filmed the show. I was like, walked in like, this was in the episode. I walked in with the co-warden or the junior warden, I don't know who he is, and Sam, and he was like, we walk in to the yard, and he's like, how do you feel? And I'm like, because we're walking into the yard, like, you know, and it's all just inmates doing sit-ups and push-ups and hanging out, playing basketball. And he goes, how does it feel? I go, well, it feels kind of like walking to a neighborhood that I don't know anybody, like, you know, like one of those neighborhoods where you're like, I need to be careful here. And then as I was saying that, some guy goes, love your comedy, bro. And I go, oh, it feels pretty good. and that's exactly how it happened. And we left it in the show. And then from that point forward, it was just like, if you like sort of close your eyes, it was just talking mostly to black men who've had a lot of life experience and been through a lot of shit, and who have learned a lot from what they went through, and have like done therapy and self-actualized and educated themselves and all these types of things. And then but then you realize they're never going to leave. They have a lot of experience, a lot of wealth of knowledge, a lot of skills, and they're never going to leave. And so for me, it was like, I can do more here. So I went back. We screened the episode there. It was the most tense screening I ever had because I was like, what if they hate it? But they were like cheering and clapping and gave me a standing ovation at the end. And so I went back and hosted this talent show. And again, I went back still like, but what if this time? And they're like, Kamau. And they make fun of me because I didn't know how to play, what was it, Pinochle? They play Pinochle in prison. I know how to play. And they were like, a black man doesn't know how to play Pinochle? Like they're like, have you ever learned how to do
it? What is it?
It's like just one of those crazy card games that's way too complicated that, and they said we play Pinochle because it's really complicated and takes a lot of time.
Ooh.
Yeah. You don't want to just play like war in prison. You want to play a game that's really like complicated so it actually sort of fills the time you have.
I had a friend who went to prison and learned how to play chess in his head.
Yeah.
They could just yell out the moves like rook to king 5, like that kind of shit.
Yeah. Checkmate.
Yeah. It was him and this kid who was a chess genius. They're sitting down, this ex-con and this chess genius sitting down playing chess in their head in front of me. I was like, wow, this is crazy.
And it reminds me, it's like the autobiography of Malcolm X. Malcolm X said there's all this wisdom in the hood that these could be mathematical geniuses.
Yeah.
These could be the people who cure cancer, but they're not being put in positions where they can actually you can take advantage of this. Yeah,
and also mistakes, like whatever mistake you make when you're a young person, whether it's selling drugs or shooting a gun in the air for your third offense, there's certain mistakes that automatically disqualify you from any personal growth for the rest of your life. Like that's it. Like you're now contained and incarcerated, and there'll be no growth.
Yeah. And the thing is like, it should be a really small list of things that disqualify you from society for the rest of your life, especially like at 18. It should be there are things, but it should be a pretty small, finite
be monsters.
list. Yeah, it should be like you are a monster. And even that, we should still check in with you every now and again to go, are you still a monster? Like, how's that monster thing going?
Is there a pill to keep you from being a monster?
Yeah, if we like sort of put you in therapy and educate you, are you still going to be a monster? We should still be working on these people, but it's certainly not an efficient. It's not for the betterment for society that we've taken this huge pool of people out of the prison systems. And this is the thing. Black people are like 12% of the American population. We're 40% of the American prison population. Somewhere around there. Please Google it. Make sure. But it's not because we're doing 40% of the crime. Black people do crime, but we're over sentenced a lot of times. We're not getting proper representation. We're not. There's like the 3 strike laws. So it's like something that like a white guy in Nebraska does, a black guy does in California. So he's in prison for the rest of his life. You know what I mean? Like it's like we're not getting there's unequal application of the law, which ends up putting us in prison at a higher rate.
And isn't there more people in population in prison in America than the rest of the world's prisons?
It might be. It's like if you look at like the graph of like Americans, the number of people in prison, it goes like it stays pretty constant for a long time, and then like right around the 80s, it goes. We have like somewhere between 2 and 3 million people in prison.
The 80s.
It goes. You know, you can pull it up, but it goes.
What were the
up.
laws that caused that to?
It's like mandatory minimums and.
Incarcerated Americans. Wow, look at that, 1980 something. It just launches straight up. Yeah. In a completely vertical line. That's nuts.
And it's like, it wasn't, people are committing the same, it's not like crime, like, man, people are just committing so many more crimes. It's just about why we were keeping them in prison longer.
Look at that shit. In the 1970s, it was less, look at the number, less than 1 million people.
And let's talk about this. We're talking about the 1970s. That's the Scorsese movie era. Like, you know, crime is at all the streets of New York.
Look at solid 1970. It looks like 400,000 people in prison, right? If that's 500,000, that looks like somewhere around 400,000. That's fucking insane. And now it's millions.
And again, it's not because crime got so much worse. It was that we started to, private prisons made it that we need to keep people in here. We need to hold people. We're making money. This is a money-making enterprise, so we need to keep people in here.
The real problem is once you've got something like that going on, pulling that back is going to be extremely difficult. Well, once there's profit to be made from incarcerating people.
Yeah, and there's a guy, you know Shane Bauer?
I've heard the name.
Shane Bauer, he works for Mother Jones Magazine. He's one of those guys who gets on the ground, but he did a whole thing where he was a prison guard in Louisiana. He applied for a job as a prison guard at a for-profit prison in Louisiana.
Wow, just for the story?
Just for the story, and didn't hide his identity. Where do you work? Mother Jones Magazine. We need people. Like they didn't do any sort of big background check. And he was a huge article he did a year or so ago, about being a prison guard. And I mean, if you read it, it's like the things you can get away with when you are the prison guard and the ways in which you can treat people at this prison in Louisiana are just, it's like, you know, it's a nightmare. And prison is supposed to be about rehabilitation.
Yeah, it's not.
And it's not. And especially at a for-profit. It's about for-profit prisons. He's another guy you should have on. I'm booking your podcast.
Please do.
Yeah.
Yeah, the amount of money that they spend is directly related to the amount of money they earn.
Yeah.
So they just try to feed you with the cheapest fucking food they can get in
That's
your
exactly
body.
what this is about. And also, it's about keeping you in line. It's not about keeping you... it's not about helping you. It's about keeping you in line. I mean, it's in the San Quentin episode. I went to the mess hall with him and had the food, the dinner, and it was like, first of all, none of it is. It's like the worst level of food. Like it's just like peas,
right.
Like carrots, like stewed carrots. Like not like there's no salt. There's no taste to it. And then like a hot dog, like not with a bun, just a hot dog. You know what I mean?
San Quentin's a good prison.
San Quentin's the prison that every prisoner wants to graduate to in California. And so a lot of the guys end up like illegally bringing food in and then making food together in their cells because they're like, I can't eat this. This is not good for you, Right. And also dinner's at 5 o'clock. And you eat at 5 o'clock and nobody's going to bed at 6.
And so you're still hungry.
So you're still later. It's like, so like 10 o'clock at night, you're hungry. You have to figure out a different way to make something happen.
And what's also fucked is that you get like 30 cents an hour or something like that for working.
And you know what? Why that is? It's because of the Emancipation Proclamation didn't apply to prisoners.
Really?
Yeah. So that's why you can pay prisoners 30 cents an hour. Oh, beautiful forest space.
Wow.
Remember we were going to talk about fun things? What happened?
Yeah, I don't know what happened, dude. Tell me some fun shit. What did you do that was fun? Like, what did you enjoy?
What did I enjoy? We did Puerto Rico.
Tell me about Puerto Rico. Because I just had Peter
God.
Schiff on. He moved all his money over to Puerto Rico because you don't have to pay taxes.
Oh yeah, the whole thing of Puerto Rico is so strange, but to me the fact Puerto Rico's bankrupt is like $80 billion or some sort of crazy figure of debt. And it's just because the U.S. has used Puerto Rico, like it's like the ATM. We sort of did things there, and we didn't, because it wasn't a state. We didn't have to sort of do it the same way. But it is one of the most beautiful places I've ever been in my life. And I mean, I was there like we were the showrunner Donnie Jackson was like, he'd been there before. He's like, there's houses for $25,000.
Whoa. And
I was like calling my wife, like, we should just buy. We don't own a house in California. We should buy a house. It's such a fun, beautiful place that has been exploited by the United States of America by not being a state and not being an independent country. Well,
it's weird too. Like things aren't allowed to ship directly to Puerto Rico. Yeah. They have to ship to the United States and then go to Puerto Rico, so that everything's super expensive.
Everything's super expensive. But it's like, for me, it's like being in a foreign country, but your cell phone works. So you get all the like different culture and new food, and you get all the like the people speak Spanish. So if you speak a little bit of Spanish, you can get by. It's a super diverse place. So like I, as a guy who's married to a white woman with a couple of mixed race kids, we don't feel like we stick out there. We're just sort of like, and the weather was. I was like, I want to go back so badly. Like
really?
Puerto Rico's, yeah.
You loved it, huh?
I loved it, and I don't like stuff.
Do you think you could live there?
I think I could retire there. I think if it was all said and done, I think I could be like, I think at this point it'd be hard, but I certainly think if my life was an East Coast life, maybe, because there's a lot of Puerto Ricans who live in New York who have houses in Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
But then I also feel weird because I'm not Puerto Rican. Like, am I a gentrifier? Am I making it better? Am I screwing you? Am I buying this house for $25,000? Is that helping you, or is that actually fucking you over? So,
right.
I bought this $25,000 house.
You have to be conscious of that stuff.
Yeah, I believe you have to be conscious of that. So I think if I did it, I would. But I met the governor of Puerto Rico, who is not very popular, but I was happy to talk to a governor. So, but and the whole battle is over statehood. Do
they want
it? It's really a disputed thing. Many activists don't want it because they feel like, why are we sort of being subjugated by the United States? Why can't we be our own country? But the problem is they're like $80 trillion, like whatever it is. They're so much in debt. It's like, what happens? But it feels like to me like it's Hawaii. It's Hawaii, but it's like Hawaii, but it's like if we had. It doesn't make sense it's in debt, is what I'm saying. It doesn't make sense that it feels like this is a beautiful place. This could be, if you just taking advantage of what it looks like, this place should be making a lot of money.
Just as a resort
just as a resort, just as a place to like, and done the right way. This should be making money hand over fist. So I sort of feel like do I invest in Puerto Rico? like that's what I do with my money. But
do you think you could be an East Coast guy though if you've lived all this time on the West Coast?
Well, Puerto Rico's not the East Coast. That's a different thing.
I mean, you'd have to either live there all told.
I'm talking about I'm all told. I'm talking about that version of me that ends up with like some sort of like that somehow ends up with Kevin Hart money without working as hard as Kevin Hart.
Right.
Or somehow something happens where you go, man, it's weird that I invested in that, that shoelace company and now those shoelaces are everywhere. Then it would be like,
time to go to Puerto Rico.
Tapped out. I'll go to Puerto Rico. I would certainly spend some time there. Yeah.
If you go to Puerto Rico though, and you move all your business to Puerto Rico, you move your money to Puerto Rico, you don't have to pay taxes.
Well, I believe me, I'm with it.
It's real weird.
It's my wife that would not be. She's the West Coaster. She's the one who, she would not be down for that. But I do think about going back. I was hoping we could screen an episode there, the Puerto Rico episode there, because it was a lot of fun. But CNN did not want to.
How many episodes have you done so far?
We've done 16. It's 8 a season.
Wow.
And so we're about to start. We start filming season 2, like September 3rd.
Yeah. Pumped?
Yeah, I'm excited. I mean, it's weird because last season when the show went off the air, I felt like I could tell that like people didn't, the talk about the show had gone away. But the Trump era is good for business.
Well, how so? What do you mean? Like you felt the talk had gone away?
Well, just like when if your special comes out and you're walking around town, more people may recognize you. Like more people are like,
I see what you're saying.
And then when your special's not out, it's not sometimes the volume gets turned down. But with this, like I still walk around and it's like the show is still on the air. People are still talking about the show and they see me. There's a sense of like, like they really feel the show in a very deep way. Like I hear from people like families watch the show together and like and I didn't make it for that reason. So it feels like the show. The first season of the show, Obama was still in office. So I felt like that was like the mixtape, and the first season was like the second season was like the album. And so I feel like now like people are looking for the show in a different way. So it feels like knowing that I have to make sure the show steps it up a notch. So I feel the pressure to like make sure that we don't just I don't want to make the show like which white supremacist is he going to talk to this season?
Right.
Like, we have to do other things. It can't we can't be repeating.
That's interesting. So you feel like a sense of responsibility, not just to entertain, but also to kind of like get some ideas out there that maybe would reach people and maybe.
Well, I feel like we're all, as comedians, we're all responsible to our material. You know what I mean? And so I feel like in that sense, I'm not doing anything different than Jim Gaffigan's doing. You know what I mean? Like these are the things I want to talk about.
But these are the things you want to talk about.
These are the things I want to talk about.
You're not Jim Gaffigan.
I'm not Jim Gaffigan. Yes. But but I feel like I don't want to separate myself from. It's easy to somehow. I believe in the work I'm doing. I'm excited about the work I'm doing. I do think that the work can help lubricate changes. It's not the change, but I don't want to get caught up in like the sort of the like this is important. You know what I mean? Because I just feel like at the end of the day, people often say to me like, "Do you still consider yourself a comedian?" Yes, I'm a comedian. Yes, I still do stand up. I'm trying to work on my next special. Like I'm still trying to do these things. It's fun to say funny things. I just like to say funny things about these things.
Right. Yeah. Well, you're part of this giant discussion, whether you're a comedian or an author or a journalist, you're part of this giant discussion, which is human culture.
Yeah.
And I think we need people that are articulate and thoughtful on all sides. We need to like figure out that there's going to be all styles of humans, different things that people are interested in. But what's got to be like the most important thing about being an American is respecting all the other styles of human, all the other ways people think, whether they're conservative or whether they're liberal or whether they're, whether they choose to, whatever the fuck it is. You want to live off the land in Alaska or whether you want to be in Manhattan. And
whether you want to be in Alabama or whether you want to be in Berkeley. And I go to both those places, so I see all those people. So I think the thing is like you have to realize that just as something is maybe makes you nervous or scared, it's not always about you. And I think that's the big thing that people get wrong about the Bay Area. We're not all a bunch of liberal people on the same page. We just recognize that we all go out there because it's like, I just want to go someplace where I can do my own thing.
And just go meet some rich people in Marin County if you think that.
Exactly, or Silicon Valley.
Silicon Valley. Well, those Silicon Valley people are so weird, though, because they try so hard to go left. Because it's almost like they feel like they have to. It's like a part of the business model.
Well, a lot of those people, it's like, it's like when you're like, wait, did you really invent anything? Like, you sort of go, it wasn't like Instagram, wasn't that Facebook, but just pictures, like, and you're like, so I feel like there's probably a lot of Silicon Valley guilt in there too. Like,
the amount of money, just like the amount of money.
I said, I'm just going to do the part about Facebook, this picture. Now I have $1 billion.
They're thinking Zuckerberg is going to run for president. Why not?
I mean, Trump has changed. He's turned the table over. So
yeah.
I think in that sense, let's see what happens. I think we definitely need new ideas. But I'm not caping for Zuckerberg.
Right.
He can. But yeah,
I don't know him.
I don't know him.
The world is better now than it was in 1900, but it's a slow, sort of gradual evolution of human ideas, and I think that shows like yours contribute to that, and conversations contribute to that, and getting just this thing is like one layer of paint at a time. We're trying to build a mountain.
Yeah.
It's frustrating for people because they want immediate change.
And I think the thing is this, to take that analogy, sometimes you go, oh, that was the wrong color of paint. We got to put that. I think that
there's going to be some errors.
Yeah, there's some errors, and I think that right now I believe we're going through an error, and this is the error era. And
I don't know though, because I think like the response to it has genuinely energized people to look at the surroundings, look at politics, look at the way we're governing this civilization, the way that we're interacting with each other, and try. I mean, the people that are responding to these people walking down the street with fucking Home Depot candles and screaming out anti-Semitic slurs or whatever the fuck they're doing, that has sort of energized people that don't agree with that to sort of like step up and try to understand how the fuck is this still going on in 2017? Like, who are these people that we didn't know existed because you live in Santa Monica?
Yeah.
That you're not around any of that. Everybody is pretty left wing. Like, who are these people? Like, what part of us is represented in this ugly aspect of our culture? Whether it's people that hate white people, or people that hate black people, or people that hate Jews. Or what is this?
Yeah.
Like, why is this still here?
Yeah.
Like, what has failed?
Yeah.
That this still exists. And I think these conversations are a big part. I mean, what you're doing by doing your show is for millions of people that get to tune in and they get to just like hear the words, and it adds layers to the way they understand human beings. It's so goddamn important, man.
And for me, I appreciate you saying that. And for me, there's a part of this that is wholly just like, I want to have these conversations.
Yeah.
And I'm happy that I have CNN's budget to make these conversations happen. I've always wanted to sit down with.
But that's the engine.
Yeah. That's the engine that pushes
it forward. You actually do want to have these conversations, and that's one of the things that makes them just authentic to people that are watching the show. Like, I can tell when I watch your show, like, this is Kamau, like, really being interested in these.
Yeah, no, I'm not, and when I'm not interested, we don't use it. Like, we really work hard to pick the right people, and there's debates. Like, we had a whole debate, like, what if we could get Trump?
What would you do?
I really pushed back. I was like, I don't believe, because I believe he's uncurious. I don't believe there's any there.
Would you ask him if he's uncurious?
I'd rather, but I don't think he would even take in the question that I was at. I'd rather Ivanka. You know what I mean? I'd rather like somebody who I feel like is like, you can see sometimes is like, this is not going according to plan.
Right. Well, she grew up with the internet.
Yeah. I would rather. I'd probably rather Bannon. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like I don't believe that there's any there with
Do you think
Trump.
he would smell like sulfur?
He probably purposefully
like, someone light a match.
I feel like he's the kind of guy who probably carries sulfur in his pocket just so he does smell like sulfur, because he wants to create the illusion that like, I am death, I am the reckoning, I am the end of all times.
Yeah, it's like the Bhagavad Gita. I am become death, the destroyer of worlds.
Yeah, like I think he probably, that's why I hated when Saturday Night Live made him, the parody of him was like the Grim Reaper. He was like, yeah, I am. You know what I mean? That's not making fun of him.
That's not good.
Yeah, he's like, that's what I am. I am the Grim Reaper.
Right. The Sean Spicer one was hilarious because Trump thought that Melissa McCarthy doing it made him look weak because a woman was doing his impression.
Yeah, there was a push at one point to have Rosie O'Donnell do Trump, and I was like, that would have been
amazing.
That would have been amazing.
Why didn't she do it?
Yeah, she was down to do it. She tweeted about
Baldwin was so good at it. Though.
He's great, but
He's
I think Alec Baldwin's great, but Rosie would have really hurt Trump's feelings.
It probably would have, right? Especially if she could say some dark shit about him.
Yeah.
I love the fact that Spicer retired too when Scaramucci got on board. He's like, that's it.
Yeah, but then now that Scaramucci's gone, Spicer hasn't been like, can I have my job back? He was like, give it. Exactly. That's what I think it's funny. Like, God. he has, nobody's heard Spicer go, well, I'm glad that I can finally return to my place.
Can you imagine being the guy that has to tell everybody that this was the biggest crowd at the White House for the inauguration ever?
Your first day.
And you know that there's photos. You know that there's photos.
And that's your, like, the first thing you want me to tell people is a lie. And you could see the look in Spicer's face was like, I know this is a lie. I have a weird soft spot in my heart for Sarah Huckabee Sanders, because she like goes out there like, arf!
And she's only like 30, right?
I know.
I think she's younger than that.
Yeah, I think she's
28.
No, I think she's in her mid-30s.
Is she?
I think so.
Oh.
But I don't know. But
I thought she was just 28 with hard years.
I just feel like I like the fact that she's out there like the
25? 35.
I like the fact that she's out there like you kind of know she knows it's a lie too, but I'm not blinking.
Well,
like
one of the
Spicer
things that
blinked.
she said when Trump was attacking people on Twitter, she was like, if you attack him, he hits back 10 times harder. I'm like, hey, that's not good. The fuck are you saying? Like, what are you talking about?
You don't teach your children that.
Yeah, we're not talking about a boxer that's really good at taking punches.
Yeah.
This is crazy.
This is the president of the United States.
Whatever happened to turn the other cheek?
We thought there was a thing called presidential, but we thought that defined the person. But now what we're learning is that the person defines the word.
Yeah.
That he's defining what presidential is.
Right.
So his supporters believe if he did it, and this is what Trump believes, you can tell, if I say it, it's presidential. If I say it, then it's worthy of the president saying it. So if me retweeting, as he did the other day, like, whatever, what is some sort of conspiracy theory, like nonsense, then that means it's a legitimate thing. It has to be. The president did it. Yeah. It's like the same thing with like the monarchy in England. Like if the Queen says it, then that's what it is. So this is where we're at.
It's a fascinating play. If it didn't have so much of an impact on our actual well-being.
Yeah, no, people told me about, I was talking to a woman yesterday who was a public school teacher, and she was saying, or had been a public school teacher, and she's talking to other public school teachers about, there are kids who go to school every day who were born in this country. They're from the Latino kids who were born in this country. Their parents are undocumented, and they go to school every day afraid that their parents are going to be kicked out of the country and not knowing what that does to them. And now somebody's like, why didn't you do your homework? Like it's like you're like, because I have a lot going on right now. Why do you seem so sullen? Why you got an attitude problem? You know what I mean? Like we're not sort of that Trump doing all that up there filters down to some kid in a public school classroom who gets in a fight and then they expel him because he's got an attitude problem. That it's like people don't think enough about how this is affecting regular ass people.
Well, he's a role model. Believe it or not.
Because he's the president. And the president, by definition, is a role model.
For sure. I mean, when you were a kid, when I was in grade school, I remember kids saying, I want to be president someday. And other kids going, wow, this motherfucker's reaching for the stars.
Yeah.
Like, wow, he wants to be the guy.
Yeah.
Like, wow. And how difficult would that be?
But then again, I remember like growing up, I remember when Reagan was in office, and I remember all my family being like, you know what I mean? So like,
everybody was like that, which is
amazing.
Not everybody. There was a lot of people that were like that when Reagan was in office, which is so weird. Like the whole revisionist history thing that happened, like after he was dead.
Now he's the modern great president.
Do you guys remember the whole Ollie North thing?
Yeah.
Do you guys remember Iran Contra? Do you remember the guy standing in front of the court when they were questioning him, saying he doesn't remember selling arms to Iran?
Yeah,
like that. This is
Nancy
madness.
Reagan standing him, feeding him the next thing to say. Yeah. No, I think that. So to me, it's like in my lifetime, it's like people were like, man, like people I know, Reagan was such a bad president. And then you get George W. Bush. No, that's a bad president. And then you get Trump. Like, so I'm like, well, what's That's the time doesn't end with Trump. Like
right. What's next?
What's coming? And that's why I think when you say like seeing how people react to Trump and stand up and in the streets, to me it's like today they're doing that or they did it this weekend. But it's like at some point people either they get exhausted by doing that.
Yeah.
There's a march right now going from Charlottesville to D.C. to protest. All the things that Trump said in the wake of Charlottesville.
They're gonna walk the whole way.
Yeah.
Lose a bunch of people on the way,
or pick up some. I think that's more likely. Like people
How
I'll
many
meet you
hours
Thursday.
Is that?
Several days. It's like a week-long thing. Yeah.
They're going to walk for several days?
They're doing it right now as we're talking. People, like, I think a lot of times with those marches, like the hardcore people start first, and then I might show up Saturday afternoon. Hey, guys, we walked this whole,
Sweating.
Yeah. Woo!
You spray yourself with a mister and jump out of a trailer with
Remember
makeup
when we were
on?
all in Charlottesville a few days ago? But yes. Man, we walked a long way. Remember that fun adventure we had? But there's people right now who are walking from Charlottesville to D.C. because they're like saying we have to sort of keep the pressure on. But it's exhausting to do that. Not everybody can do that.
I don't know how much it helps because, like, remember the Women's March? Totally unacknowledged. He never said a thing about it. There's millions of people all over the world marching against him.
Yeah,
people wearing pussy hats. Nobody cared. He just doesn't seem to respond.
But I think sometimes it's not about like whether the people in power care. It's whether the people care and it gets the people energized to do the next thing. So I think that the March on Washington that King didn't you can't go and the next day, like you can't.
Right.
But it certainly becomes a historical moment that people then look for, and it becomes like everybody, not every, but most people in their homes that were talking about the Women's March,
right?
And it starts that thing that like it's the same thing with marriage equality. Like it starts to open up people's brains. So like, man, what were they talking about? And some people are having bad conversations. But to me, it's like it opens up. As long as you keep the conversation going, there's a potential for change.
Yeah, it just takes time. There's an old expression that comes to gambling, and it also can be applied to weight loss and a bunch of other things in life, that you get better the same way you got sick. Like with gambling, like you can't just win it all back. Like you got to slowly try to chip away and get back. And then with weight loss, you can't just lose all that weight. It doesn't happen like that. Like how long did it take you to get fat? Well, guess what? It's going to take you a similar amount of time to lose
maybe
that
longer
weight.
to lose the weight.
I mean, it could very well. And I think for our culture, it's going to take a while to sort all this out. And I think we also have a problem that the actual operating system that we use, this whole representative government that was set up back when you had to take a letter by horse to get to people. Like it's really not necessary anymore. And it creates a lot of red tape, and it creates a lot of bureaucratic inefficiency that I think if we had no government right now, and we're trying to structure a government, the last thing we would do is have one person with an incredible amount of power that could also launch the nukes and pardon criminals. We wouldn't have that. We'd never set that up like that.
We would put in like those offices with cubicles that are in a semicircle.
And we'd also probably have like a council of wise people.
A presidential council of people.
People that are like mathematics professors that understand economics, people that understand, geography and understand cultural differences, people that are, that really understand healthcare, that really understand all the different things.
And we wouldn't
make
make like the Supreme Court a lifetime appointment. You would go, you get it for 20 years and
it's
then
crazy.
You move on. You don't, and we wouldn't, this is the thing I don't think Democrats focus enough on unless they're doing it behind closed doors. Like you would not have the Electoral College.
No fucking way.
You would not.
No
nobody could
way.
sell it to you. Nobody could tell you why it makes sense now.
Ohio's important. Wait a minute. Settle down. How important? Everybody's important, but is it more important than anybody else? One person, one vote, man.
We're looking at this whole thing like every election boils down to like 4 or 5 states.
Right.
And
it's crazy.
Like in California, by the time the polls close, they tell you who won because they're like, we know how California voted. So then I become a person who's like, what's the point of me voting for, it's like, so for me, Electoral College and then gerrymandering, where the whole thing where they get to they divide your neighborhood up into a way that sort of benefits those are the things that are really. That's why it's scary about who comes after Trump, because as long as the Electoral College exists, it automatically sort of tips the country in a more sort of right-leaning direction, and now, which is maybe fine, except when the right becomes Trump, if it's different if it's President John McCain, which I'm not a huge John McCain fan, but I feel like at least there's a through line, what I mean? Whereas, so for me, it's like the Electoral College is never, that's why the left has to fight so hard. And I feel like if Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer aren't in hallways, aren't in meetings right now, like, we gotta fuck this Electoral College up, we gotta take it down, then we're sort of losing the plot of how this works.
Well, I don't think it's necessary anymore. And this idea that, the people in the middle need it because the people on the coasts, the large population centers, they can dictate. Well, there's more people there.
There's more people there.
That's the actual country.
That's why they're dictating. Because
the rest of America out here fucking our kids in the middle of the fields. It's not.
Well, people define as the most, like, we have more people, and they're like, but we got more land. That's not the same.
It's
thing.
all of us. We're all supposed to be in this thing together, and it
would be a way more interesting election if everybody knew they're just counting the votes.
And there's great people in the middle too.
And politicians would have to work way harder instead of going, well, I'm not going to go talk to people in up and down California because that's already set.
I think there's an issue with states too. I think there's an issue with people voting like, we lost California and now Nevada's gone to I just think should be just one lump group of humans.
Exactly. Yes.
Let's all vote on stuff. And there's good people everywhere. There's good people in Iowa. There's good people in Kansas. There's good people in California. There's, we got to stop all this divisiveness, and I think that's one of the issues that comes along with people. I mean, there's people that they have intercity competition, right? Fuck Chicago, people get like that. We get in these teams, and when it comes to the United States of America, when it comes to being the president, I genuinely think that we have to look at ourselves as one group of humans.
Well, I think we should at least feel like that each of our voices counts.
Yeah, and we're in it together.
Yeah, that each of our, because right now it's like, if you live in It doesn't
Well, the
matter.
liberals, these liberals in the East Coast, they're delusional. They don't have an understanding of the real people of America.
That voice is horrifying.
Scary voice, because you know that's a real person out there.
I had to put this voice in my act.
I felt like I was just with it. I had like a moment of like, what just happened? Just
put my hood on. And...
well, I'll show you how to burn a cross.
Wow, you could be like a funny joke comedian, a funny voice comedian. You could be like, you with all this other stuff. That's funny. Yeah, no, that's I think that we. Because the thing is, this is one thing I'll say about United Shades. When I go to the South Side of Chicago, we did an episode about gangs and gun violence and gang violence in the South and West Side of Chicago, and I did an episode of Appalachia about mostly about coal in the coal industry and how it's dying, and even people there know, it's dying. When Trump comes, a lot of them cheer because they're like, we just need, but what they're cheering for is jobs.
Right.
They're not cheering for coal necessarily.
Of course.
If you said we have other jobs for you, they'll take those jobs.
Right.
Now they do have pride in the culture the coal culture because it's about their life, but they're not. Doesn't have to be that. But all I'm saying is people in Appalachia who voted for Trump, people in Chicago who voted for Hillary, are all just worried about jobs and better schools for their kids
and safety.
Yeah, and so they're not. But when we break it down to this left, right, blah 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 blah, it starts to change the conversation. When really there is a party, and some people would say it's the Green Party, but there is not. You could form a party around those ideas and not where these other parties have gone.
I completely agree. But listen, man, I love your show. I'm glad you're doing it.
Thank you.
I always love talking to you. We should do this more often.
Absolutely.
And thanks for coming on, brother.
Thanks for having me.
Tell everybody how they could reach you on social media. W. Kamau Bell on Twitter.
Yeah, at W. Kamau Bell, at WKamauBell.com. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Facebook. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, man. That was fun.
Man.
Thank you. Great conversation. All right, fuckers. I'll see you tomorrow.